It's that time of the week. Yes, this week's Cult Movie Show, your weekly look at cult movies. Please welcome your hosts, Warren and Velvet.
Yes! Welcome, we are back! We are back, baby! For podcast number 60. It's been a while, but welcome back, everybody, to the Cult Movie Show with myself, Warren, and, of course, the co-hostess with the mostest, Velvet. How are you today?
Doing quite fantastic. Excited to be back yet again. Looking for another long streak of weekly podcasts. We've got so much planned. We got so much shitty movies to talk about and some good ones sprinkled in there. We got guests coming. It's going to be fun. But today, our movies, I'm not really sure what the hell we were doing this week, but we got some crazy movies to talk about this week. And there's like no central theme. It was literally just some random movies that we picked. And they're readily available online at your favorite places, be it Netflix, Amazon Prime, or even possibly YouTube. So you guys should be able to easily find these movies and check them out.
Oh, yes. I think basically between Amazon Prime, Netflix, and iTunes, between one of the three of them, you will be able to find all these movies. So,
absolutely.
Yes. Or a video rental store if you still actually have one. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. You do not have to hire a private detective to hunt down these movies for you like they do in the first movie we're going to talk about in a bit.
Yes.
And I have to say, if you have to do that, don't do it. Maybe there's a reason this movie went lost. Don't hunt it down to that degree.
But we will get to all of that in a moment. But look, we have obviously been away for a while. A couple of months, I think.
Oh my goodness gracious! Too long.
Yes, we have been away, and but I was going to sort of say, though, have you? I suppose the thing to actually always ask with any movie podcast is, have you seen any good movies lately?
Oh my goodness. I am so sad to say I have not. Let's just say went through a lifestyle change recently. Let's just say I said goodbye to gasoline and hello to electric, and it is the best decision I've ever made in my entire life.
Woohoo! Go electric!
And I'm not talking about my cooking range, people. I'm talking about a car. If you have the charging infrastructure to get an electric car, do it. That's all I got to say. All right, but this is the Cult Movie Film Podcast, not the Going Electric Car Podcast. So
no,
for another time.
Yes. But then I should maybe say, have you seen any bad films lately, apart from the ones we're going to review?
Oh my goodness. You and I, even though we don't record all of our conversations, I did mention to you that I attempted to watch Bright, starring Will Smith and Joel Edgerton. I just cannot finish that movie. I just can't do it, people. I'm sorry. It's readily available on Netflix. It's about all the supernatural beings being mainstreamed into human society. So now you got orcs, fairies, elves in mainstream society. And Joel Edgerton, one of our favorite Australian actors. We need to review more movies with him in it, by the way.
Oh, he's good. He's good.
Yeah, he is good. And he's in such a shitty movie, this Bright movie. It's called Bright. And he plays the first orc to become a police officer accepted to the human force. So he's considered a traitor by all the other orcs. He has to file down his fangs because they have like really big like warthog fangs, and just like he has to totally mainstream, and people are trying to like frame him for something and pin it on him, and but Will Smith is in it, and that just ruins it. And it's just this blatant allegory for racism and acceptance, and it's just so badly done. I've tried to watch it twice. Each time I've only lasted 20 minutes. I can't do it. I just cannot watch this movie.
This is the thing. I mean, we spoke about this actually the other week.
Yes.
And when we were talking, and it's a bit like the whole idea is that if you go back in time to the 1950s or something, it's like if you want to make a movie about racism, you don't necessarily make it about racism. You set it in a different concept or construct but it's actually
Right.
about racism, but you might be talking about, elves and people or something like that. But it's actually telling a story about black and white, sort of thing.
Right.
But it's 2018. You don't need to do that anymore. If you want to make a movie about racism, you can just make a movie about racism. It's okay. No one...
Exactly.
It's like, what was the movie? Get Out. I mean, that
was so good.
Clearly,
So good.
a movie about, white supremacists and all the rest of it. Well, that's fine. You can just make it about that. You don't have to hide it in something else,
Right.
I think we're beyond that now. I don't know why people are still trying to do that.
It's a shame because, honestly, this could have been a cool film, but the writing is so fucking bad in this movie, Bright. Honestly, it lost me the moment Will Smith killed a fairy, because now, just for a little bit of context, in this movie, fairies are kind of like pests, kind of like bugs, but it is an actual fairy. So I actually found it really disturbing because it has like a human face and human body, but then it has little wings, but it then's flying around being a little asshole. So, and everybody's just like, kill it, kill it, kill it, like you would kill a fly or a mosquito. So anyway, so he kills this fairy because it's annoying, and he goes, "Fairy lives don't matter today." And I'm like, I can't watch this movie. I can't do it. This is some of the worst writing I've ever seen.
It's an interesting play on words, if you like. But
but no, it was just poor taste, poorly done, horribly written. I just can't. The movie's so shitty.
And the other thing too is that
I've heard, but.
I was just going to say. Go
ahead.
No, I was just going to quickly say
go ahead.
is there'll be a lot of people overseas that won't get that joke.
Right.
Like if you're not American, you won't get that joke.
Right.
I'm not even going to explain it. Just Google Black Lives Matter if you're not
Black
an American.
Lives Matter,
right?
and then try to watch Bright, and you'll just be like, wow, that joke is too soon?
Yeah.
Too soon?
Yeah.
Too soon?
Yeah.
But anyways, it's just... and, I mean, this was... Netflix is, like, becoming beyond mainstream. Netflix is like television. It's one in every home.
Yeah.
And so they're not only constantly buying, like, these foreign movies that haven't been seen in respective markets. So, like, they'll buy foreign films that haven't been seen in America, that kind of thing. But then they also do these huge budgets where they actually make their own movies. So Bright was a big deal because it had this humongous multi-million-dollar budget with big-name stars, and it's a piece of shit. And so when it came out, everybody's reviewing it, and, like, so one of my favorite reviews that I heard of it before I tried to watch it twice was this guy said, "I'm going to hate watch this movie." He's like, "I'm going to force myself to watch this just because it's so bad. I have to see it." He's like, "But this is not so bad. It's good. It's bad. It's just terrible."
Well,
so,
but it's look, I suppose it's like any movie or TV studio. They're going to come up with bad ones. I mean, I was actually having a discussion about Netflix. Actually, it was only the other day about the amount of product that they're producing, and
it's amazing.
And the topic actually came up. It was a little bit like, how for a $10 a month subscription are they getting the money to produce all of this stuff? And,
they're not.
Well, of course, there's money coming in from elsewhere, but one of the things I didn't realise until I looked it up, there's something. Netflix has a yearly turnover of around $50 billion US. Wow! It is
amazing.
It is a huge company.
Amazing.
And then with investment elsewhere, and other investment in projects and so forth, it's the way of the future. I mean, it really is.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. And
Blockbuster
had a chance to buy out Netflix before they took off.
I know.
I feel so bad for Blockbuster. They weren't ready to change.
No.
They were not ready to change. I remember they lost my business when they tried to go online, and I signed up with them, and they charged me $1 just to sign up. And I'm like, wait, whoa.
Yeah.
Just to sign up, you're fucking charging me? And I was like, okay, cancel.
Yeah, No. The way of the future is you either have a very cheap subscription like Netflix,
Yes.
or you have a user pay system like iTunes, which I still think works pretty well.
Yes.
But although I don't know if you found this, I find everyone I speak to says this. iTunes seems to have bandwidth issues. Like,
yeah, I thought it was my computer. Yeah, I thought it was my computer until you said that one time. And I'm like, oh, it's everybody. It's not just me. Yeah, it buffers. It's slow. It takes forever to load. It's like, God dang, come on, people.
Yeah, it seems to be everyone says the same thing about it. So, yeah, anyway. But talking about Netflix, I will tell you a film I did see, and I wasn't too sure whether I wanted to see it or not. And I did see the new Cloverfield. The Cloverfield.
Oh, I have not seen it yet.
What's it called? The Cloverfield
Paradox.
Paradox. Yeah. Look, everyone knows how I feel about Cloverfield. I think fantastic movie that should never have been made as a found footage movie. I mean, that just... right. Okay. And if you had taken the found footage element out of it, it would have been a really good film. But, yeah, this is meant to be the prequel to explain how it started. Yeah, I don't know.
I've been hearing it's not too good. Is what I've heard.
I wouldn't say it's bad, but I wouldn't say it's fantastic at the same time. Another one I actually saw, which I think is a Netflix original, was Annihilation. I think it's called Annihilation, about an alien force which comes to Earth, and the US government sends this all-female team in to try to find out what it's all about and solve the mystery or the riddle of this sort of environment that's been created by this alien presence. Really interesting idea, but I don't really know. I would argue the film is way too complex for most people who are probably going to watch it. When the movie ends and you really don't know what's happened, I like that in a sense that it makes people talk, have conversations. What did you think? What did you think? Oh, I thought it meant this, or I thought it meant that. But for a lot of other people, they want an ending just to be black and white. You know what I mean? They just want an ending, and this film doesn't give you that. You sit there going, I don't know what I just watched. Like, what just happened? It's like,
I don't like that. That's not a good feeling.
You know, so
at least when you don't like a movie, you know you don't like it usually because you didn't like what happened or the way it was told, or it was bad writing, bad acting, you didn't like the way it looked. But when you just watch a movie and you're like, I literally have no idea what happened. I mean, sometimes that works because you and I love Samurai Cop 2 Deadly Vengeance, and I cannot tell you what the fuck that movie is about at all.
I don't think it's meant to be about anything. I mean, that's the whole point.
It's just so fun.
It was a fun film, though. Oh, God, it was a fun film. Anyway, so look, enough of, I suppose, general banter. We are here to, of course, talk about some crazy cult films, and so I suppose we should kick off with our first one. How does that sound? So this is an interesting little offering from the United States. It is from 2009 and directed by Dave Parker and called The Hills Run Red.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, and it is. I suppose it is marketed as a bit of a horror suspense slasher type movie. But I don't really know if it actually comes up to grade on any of those. You know, it's not a slasher film. Definitely not enough blood and gore or anything in it.
Oh, you didn't think there was enough gore? I thought it was pretty gory.
There is, but a lot of it is implied. You know, it's like we see
That's
a guy
true.
with a chainsaw and we see somebody screaming, but we don't actually see.
That's true.
Right?
Maybe it was all in my head.
You know,
They did do a CGI blood that looked pretty cartoony.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's as far as the suspense, I wouldn't really say it's overly suspenseful. And as far as horror, I wouldn't really say it's overly scary. Anyway, we'll do a quick run through, and then we'll see what we both think. How does that sound?
Right. Oh,
So-
and this is not the 1966 spaghetti western of the same name.
No.
We're talking about the horror film from 2009.
Which they do actually make reference to in the film, which is
Yes.
which is interesting.
I'm not going to lie. When you very first suggested this, I asked you because I wasn't sure if you meant the western or the horror film.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, which one?
Which
okay.
one? So anyway,
Like I sent you a screenshot of the horror one because I was hoping you'd say this one. I'm like, please don't be a western. Please don't be a western.
No. I'm not really a Western type person. I don't really. Unless it's got John Wayne in it, I really don't want to watch it.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I'm like more a John Wayne fan rather than a Western fan, So
There you go.
I'll watch anything that John Wayne was in. But
That
if someone gives me a Western, I just don't really. Yeah, I don't know why I like John Wayne so much. I just always really.
He's a cinematic icon. Yeah, cinematic icon.
I mean,
so,
he wasn't really a very good actor, But
no, I didn't. Okay, thank you. I've always thought that. I've never dared to say it out loud because I might get tar and feathered if I say it around the wrong
he was
person.
a terrible actor. He was a terrible actor, but I loved his movies. I suppose it's a bit like Arnie. Arnie's not really a great actor.
Oh God, no!
Right, but I love. all his movies.
Can't believe I totally forgot to tell you. I saw Killing Gunther. Sorry, just really quick. It's a mockumentary about a group of assassins that are trying to find this one assassin so that they can kill him just to claim the title of best assassin ever. And the assassin they're trying to hunt down is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's very, very, very funny.
Yes,
so worth checking out. Killing Gunther. All right, back to the Hills Run Red.
We're not talking about Arnie, and we're not talking about the Duke. We are talking about the Hills Run Red. We've digressed already, and we haven't even started talking about the film. Well, it's a bit like to new listeners. Welcome to the Cult Movie Show. This is what it's like. So anyway, 2009, as we said, an American offering. Now, I do actually think this movie has actually a bit of an independent movie feel to it.
It totally does. It took them like 2 years to make this movie, which tells me that's an independent budget. They're like, okay, well, we're out of money for now, but, don't change your look.
Yes.
Memorize your lines. Don't forget them. We'll pick up again in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Evidently, it took them 2 years to make this movie, so.
Yeah, so that says something, doesn't it? Now, basically, our film, the other thing, too, is that we should also say it stars Sophie Monk. Now, Sophie Monk, if you're not an Australian, you probably are going to say, who? If you're an Australian, Sophie Monk is a bit like Australian royalty. She's one of those people, a bit like for us, like Kylie Minogue. It's like they can't do wrong in our eyes, whatever they do, Even if they do something really stupid, we instantly forgive them. That sort of person. So I was really interested to see that she was actually in this movie. Although she does use an American accent, she doesn't actually use her Australian accent.
Her American accent is flawless, by the way. She's a very good actress.
It's actually pretty good.
She's a very good actress.
And but you want to hear her in real life because she's a girl from Brisbane, or as she would say, she's a girl from Brizzy. And Sophie Monk, if you watch this movie, she sounds like she actually sounds very well educated and all the rest of it. When you actually hear Sophie Monk speak in real life, she sounds like, to use an American term, a redneck. She's like, g'day, mate, beauty bonza. Oh, yeah, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to crack open a tinny and, fuck me, my jeans are tight. She's rough as guts, and she's never tried to change it. And I think that's maybe the reason why Australians love her so much, because of her honesty. She was once, because she's also a singer, and we'll actually play one of her songs actually after we do this review. She was actually once interviewed, and she was actually told by the interviewer, actually sort of said, your latest single isn't doing very well. Why do you think that is? And she just said to the interviewer, probably because it was a shit song, mate. I mean, she's meant to be actually promoting a single, and she says, oh, no, it's a shit song.
Oh, she's a publicist's nightmare. Oh my God.
She's absolutely hilarious. Anyway, So
the first movie I remember seeing her from is there's a movie from 2006. I actually saw it in the theater twice. I was back in the see movies in the theater twice days for me. Was Date Movie. Where She plays Andy. She plays the hot blonde that's trying to steal away the love interest from Alison Hannigan. So yeah, if you want to see more of Sophie Monk, she's also very funny and very sexy in a Date Movie from 2006.
Yes, she's in actually quite a lot of movies, but they're all pretty. She would say B grade tends to be.
But she's a good actress, though. I think she has that beautiful actress syndrome that for a long time, like Scarlett Johansson had that they are so fucking beautiful. Eva Mendes has had this problem where they're so fucking beautiful, nobody will give them serious roles. Like they are always just, and they're good actresses. They actually have range and ability, and it's like, but they're so beautiful that people are just like, just put her in a monster movie and have her show her tits. Just put her in a goofy comedy. And it's like, no, they actually have ability. They're not just beautiful. They actually have talent. But,
that's the thing. The thing about her is she can actually sing. She doesn't actually, she's produced a couple of albums, and she used to be in a band. She started off in reality TV, actually. And we'll get on to that later. We've got to talk about the bloody film.
Oh, that's right. Okay, The Hills Run Red. There we go.
The Hills Run Red. Now, so anyway, our story starts basically with a gentleman called Tyler, who's played by Tad, is it Heigenbrink? I think it is. And with his friend, played by William Sadler. Now, they basically... no,
his friend is Alex Wyndham.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Yes, you're quite correct. And his girlfriend is Janet Montgomery, who plays Serena. Now, our main character, Tyler, he is a film obsessive, if you like. He makes documentary movies and this sort of thing. And he becomes obsessed with a movie that was made meant to be 20 years before, which was called The Hills Run Red. And supposedly the idea is meant to be it's the scariest movie ever made, and it's a slasher film, and it's meant to be so scary because it is so realistic. Now, he wants to find out more about this film because no copies of the print exist. All there is a trailer and some promotional artwork. So he's trying to track it down. Now, he manages to track down the daughter of the man who made the movie, and that is, of course, Alexa, who's played by Sophie Monk. Now, he tracks her down and convinces her that to help them try to go back and find where the film was shot and all the rest of it, because she tells Tyler that basically her father, who made the film, is now dead. But if they can find the old cabin where they used to live when she was a child, they'll probably actually find a copy of the film, because that's where he stored all of this stuff. So anyway, this is how the story goes. Sounds all a little bit ridiculous, to be honest, but we will find out it is kind of ridiculous, and why they fall for all of this is a little bit silly. But anyway, so they all team up, the four of them, and head off into the hills to try to track down the cabin where this movie was made. Now, when they do that, they will start to find out that there's some weird stuff about this film. One, they seem to be being followed when they're in the woods, and they don't quite know who they're being followed by. It turns out they're actually being followed by two people, or two different groups, who end up fighting each other, and then they have to escape from the winner. They end up making their way, finding this place, this house, where it was in the middle of the woods where it was filmed, and then our whole movie twists. It goes through an entire twist where, should I say what the twist is, Velvet, or not?
I think we can go ahead and spoil this one, because this movie is from 2009.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't usually guess twists, and I guessed this one.
Yes. So it basically turns out that we think that Alexa, the daughter of the filmmaker, is this poor person who was basically used by her father, abused and so forth, and she's the father really is dead, and she's actually trying to take them there to find this stuff to help them. No, it turns out that this is all a plot by Alexa and her father, and the father is still alive. And then, of course, we turn into the classic slasher genre of where how do they survive when they're being hunted down by Alexa and her father. It's kind of interesting, but I think the plot twists are pretty simple. What do you think, Velvet?
I was entertained by this film, actually, and I thought this movie was rather gory, but then you mentioned more of it's implied, and I'm like, oh, you're right. So it did have a very gritty feel to the film, and it kind of did now I'm not saying it's on par with this movie, but I'm saying it did kind of do what Texas Chainsaw Massacre does, because a lot of times when you talk to about that movie, people remember it being really gory, really disgusting, really disturbing, but most of the violence is implied. And in this film, there is a little bit more gore. You do see a little bit of CGI blood that looks so fucking fake. It's actually kind of funny. But, I mean, there is, there's a lot of violence, but it is more implied. But for some reason, I remembered it being a lot more gory than I thought it was when I watched it, really. So they get a couple points for that. That's pretty cool. But so much of this shit was just, it was so cliche. Like, even the movie news shit was cliche. Like, they were commenting on, oh, why do people leave the city and go to the country and then all their technology fails and they can't call for help and nobody ever has a gun? And so they were making commentary on, the cliches of horror, and they were trying to correct those cliches, but they would still fall victim to these cliches. So I was actually entertained by this movie, and Sophie Monk's in it, who's an amazing actress, as we've already said. And 8 minutes in, we've got boobs, so they don't waste any time.
We've got
they don't waste any time.
We've got Sophie Monk's boobs quite a few times in this movie, I have to admit.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
I've got so much to say about this movie. First off, the whole Concannon, the family name Concannon. So the filmmaker's last name is Concannon. That is the most fake last name ever. It just annoyed me the entire movie. I'm like, really, could they not come up with... I would have even preferred if it had been John Smith, if it had just been something so bland and predictable, but Concannon was just like the most annoying name. Okay, getting back to Sophie Monk. Okay, so we find her as a stripper. Okay, first off, why do strippers in movies always wear suspenders and stockings, lingerie? That is the most hardest shit to get on and off. Yeah. If you are doing private dances, you're doing like 20, 30, 40, 50 dances a night, $20 a pop. You need shit that you can take on and off fucking fast, not something that it takes you half an hour to put on every fucking time.
Yes, it's probably a reason why strippers don't wear, chainmail and suits of armour. It sort of thing, I can see your point there. Yeah.
It always bugs the shit out of me. I'm like, yes, it looks gorgeous, but my fucking God, unless he's paying for her to be in that room with him all fucking night long, okay, then she can dress up. But no, you are not wearing fucking stockings with suspenders, lingerie. Not doing it. Okay. All right. I just had to get that little mini rant out of the way.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing, strip club culture 101, Alexa Concannon. So this filmmaker hunts her down, says, hey, you were so-and-so Concannon's daughter. You were in this movie that I'm trying to hunt down that he made. Is there anything you can tell me about it? I'm like, whoa. She is not using her fucking legal government name in a strip club. She should have a fucking stripper name. She should have a stage name.
Actually, that's true.
There's no way. Yeah, there's no way you walk into a strip club and say people's legal government name is so-and-so here, and the bartender just points to the stage. And I'm like, no. What if this guy's a fucking crazy stalker? No, bugged the shit out of me the entire movie. I'm like, she should have a fucking stage name. Nobody should know that she is Alexa Concannon. But then we wouldn't have a movie if she had used the stage name. So she wanted to be found. But, okay, sorry. All right, those are just my little mini rants about strip club culture. Okay, I've said them. I'll leave them alone now.
Right.
But so basically we get this filmmaker to talk to Alexa, and he's like, no, I'm serious. I'm not just a fan. I really want to make a documentary about the making of this movie. I want to actually find it and watch it and show it to the world. And she's like, okay, cool. So she agrees to help him, but then it ends up that he, our filmmaker, needs to help her because she's got a hell of a drug habit. She is snorting shit. She is shooting up. She's injecting. And so he ties her to a bed in a hotel and forces her to go through withdrawals for a couple of days. And I'm like, wow, first off, that's fucking dangerous because you do not know this person. You don't know to what degree they're going to go crazy when they start going through withdrawal pains. And also, you just don't know the state of their health. If you withdraw them like that, you might really cause some serious health damage.
Well,
I mean, there's just so many. Yes, exactly. So much shit bothered me in the beginning of this movie. I'm just like, okay, I'm nitpicking it to death.
No, but you're right. It's pretty simplistic in its the way it looks at, let's say, adult culture, like he's in strip clubs and all this sort of stuff, or the way that it looks at drug use. Like, it's a very simplistic viewpoint, that it has. It's almost like the when they made the film, it's like nobody who wrote it or directed it had ever been to a strip club or had ever taken drugs. Do you know what I mean? Or actually, I'll rephrase that, or had ever known somebody who had,
exactly.
Yeah.
So shit like that bothers me too. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, it's a movie. Try not to take it too seriously. They're just doing what they need to do to move the plot forward. But like I said, not too long after that, we do get, we get the monologue from one of the filmmaker's friends, Lalo. At first I kept thinking they were saying Lala. I was like, what a name. Yeah. Lalo. And he does the whole thing about, he mentions all the cliches. This movie did actually get a couple of jump scares in on me. I'm sad to say it did get me a couple times because I'm leaning into my laptop watching this movie, and all of a sudden they just do one of those really weird, they do like this, they do this like gory, just split second monster face, baby faces, we'll call them, wipe, and then it moves to something else. I'm like, oh, it got me. I jumped.
Yes.
So a little bit of torture porn. So see people getting tied up, pulled apart, all kinds of fun stuff, but not on par with Saw, not as gory or as visceral. No.
And the other thing too is that Saw has got there's a real underlining plot, to Saw, even though a lot of people say, oh, they're just slasher movies, but Saw is there's always that idea of what would you do, to what extent would you weigh up one thing against the other, A against B, sort of how do you rate your life against someone else's life, what are you prepared to lose in order to survive? It's a really interesting concept in Saw where this movie doesn't have that.
No. No, it does not.
We also should say that because of course we've got to have, some sort of real evil bastard with a chainsaw or an axe, and in this movie we do, and the person is called Babyface. Now,
don't let the name fool you, people.
No, the idea is meant to be that when they made this original movie, The Hills Run Red, is that the bad person in that was called Babyface and wore a baby mask, like a baby mask. It was like the face off a doll, right, which he wears, straps to his face with barbed wire, and because that's the way you do it, isn't it? But of course, it turns out that there is a very interesting relationship, between the filmmaker Kincannon, his daughter Alexa, and Babyface. And shall we just say there's a biological connection between all three of them? Shall we just say that?
Let's just say that family incest is best.
Yes.
That grosses me out so bad. Oh, no, so gross. Yeah, no, they caught me up on that one. I wasn't expecting that one. I was like, oh, I could have done without that. Well, they had quite a bit cut out of this movie. I heard there was a lot more gore. There's a rape scene that got cut out. So that, yeah, I was like, wow, because the overall premise, there is a ton of torture. There's a lot of, for what they show, the gore is pretty just the concept. I mean, we have people ripping their own faces off and putting a baby doll mask. Like, just the whole concept honestly got me. I was like, oh, this is pretty intense shit. This was Warren's revenge for me making him watch Raw, my favorite French body horror film. Yes. So, but no, I was kind of like, well, I think Warren's getting back at me. No, but yeah, no, I did like the babyface killer. I'm sorry, that sounds so stupid, people, but you have to see it. It's actually really gruesome.
It works, though. I think in some way the babyface character, you know, like we've all got to have there's got to be a Jason type character. But this one, with the mask that he wears, it kind of works, I think.
It's really creepy. It's really scary. It's really gross.
It does actually work. I would say, I would say that, yeah.
Yeah. There was some inconsistencies, or maybe I just missed something. That could be. But, okay, so the whole time they're talking about, okay, it's a movie. The Hills Run Red, it's a movie. They're looking for this movie. Then all of a sudden, there's this one part in the movie where all of a sudden they're talking about the murders. And what can you tell us about the murders? And do you think and they think the murders are real. About 36 minutes in, the film goes from a fiction to all of a sudden they're saying that everything that's in this film they're looking for is true. But then all of a sudden towards the end, they're like, oh my God, it's real. And I'm like, wait, you were saying it was real before. And what? Now I'm confused. Like, did you think this was a fucking snuff film or not?
Well, yeah, I've got to admit, there is an inconsistency. I mean, 1 minute they're sort of saying it's a snuff film. The next minute they're saying, oh, no, it's special effects. The next minute they're saying, oh, no, it is a snuff. I mean, no, you are right. It's almost like there was some stuff in there I think maybe just got out of order. And maybe that has a lot to do with, if you're saying this movie was filmed over a very long period of time and then put together, maybe that may,
and stuff was cut out to make it through the censors, so that might have fucked up the continuity.
That is possible. But I think we always get as the viewer, though, we always get the idea that in the original movie, The Hills Run Red, that they're trying to hunt down. The idea that it really is a snuff film in the sense that the deaths are real, the murders are real, and I think they don't believe that at first, but we as the audience, I think, are meant to believe it is.
I'm sorry, this isn't funny, but for some reason I'm laughing all of a sudden because this movie warps my mind, I guess. Okay, some of the scenes that were cut out. One of the scenes that was cut out was we find out, as you mentioned, that Kakanen, the original filmmaker of The Hills Run Red, is alive, and one of the scenes that they cut out was there was supposed to be a scene where he's naked and beating his wife, and I'm like, what? Yeah, no, I'm glad you cut that out. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for cutting that out. I don't need to see that shit. And there's a rape scene that got cut out, but because they cut out the rape scene, there is a post-credit scene that doesn't make sense because they cut out the rape scene.
Well, yes. I mean,
you're like, oh, okay. Now I know what's going on.
Well, we should point this out, and that is that when this movie ends and the title, it ends honestly on a point where you sort of think, oh, okay, that's an interesting ending. But
I was like, I went, where did Serena go? There's a girl that's on the crew. The girlfriend, I'm like, where'd she go? And then all of a sudden there's an end credit sequence.
So you must sit through the credits. This is something we must point out. If you're going to watch this, now I'm not going to say what happens because that will just be giving too much away.
We'll leave you a couple of surprises, but let me just say the rape scene was cut out in case you watch it and you're confused.
Yes, but that will then explain the end credits scene or the after credits scene. So, but yes, you must not, when you see the credits roll, do not, hit stop. You've got to let the thing run all the way through, because it will explain something. I'll just say this, that basically the idea that Alexa, Sophie Monk, let's just say that she wants to carry on a family tradition.
Yuck.
Right? let's just put it that way.
I'm just realizing Sophie Monk is so murderous in this movie. Oops, sorry, spoiler. But I'm just like, wow, she's a really psycho. She is really psycho in this movie, but she's so good.
Well, that's the interesting thing is that with this movie, in the first, 50, the first 50% of it, she's playing someone who seems to be quite just an ordinary person who's had a hard life. Right. In the second half of the film, she is a totally different character. Like, she's not the same person anymore. And I must admit, there is a good line in it where the whole film does its turnaround, it does its twist, even though you said that you'd guessed the twist before it even happened.
Which I usually don't do. I don't know if that means it's an obvious twist or I just had my thinking cap on, which I try not to do. Yeah. When I watch movies.
I'll be honest. I'm not 100% sure I saw the twist coming. I'll be honest. But when she when they're at the cabin and Babyface is there and Babyface has just attacked a couple of our filmmakers and she's there and she's just been rescued by Tyler because she's been tied up to a bed, topless, of course.
Of
course. And anyway, so she comes running out, Tyler comes running out, Babyface comes in, Babyface throws Tyler up against the wall, and then and Serena's there, and Serena runs away into the forest to try to escape, and then Sophie Monk is just there. She's also, I'm such a victim, I'm such a victim, and then her facial expression just changes, and she gets all serious, and she turns to Babyface and just goes, "Fetch." And I've got to admit, it's actually kind of cool the way she does it.
It was cool.
Just with one word, "fetch," and then the whole movie totally does. It flips on its head, and the people we thought were good are now bad. So it's interesting. I must admit, I enjoyed it. It's not a film that I didn't enjoy. No,
I was entertained by it. I wouldn't recommend it to everybody because it's if you like horror movies and you like gore, although it might be more implied than for some reason I'm thinking I saw a lot of weird shit because I even wrote, like, my very first note was cringeworthy gore right from the start because somebody's like cutting off their face and ripping off their face and putting on a mask and it grossed me out so bad. Yeah. I was just like, oh God, Warren, what did you pick?
I've got to admit, the opening scene is in a sense, the opening scene is actually kind of the goriest in the whole movie. It actually kind of tones back after that to a degree. Because, yes, we do sort of see it for real in the opening scene, and then you do sort of go, oh, holy crap, what have I got myself into? But then it does tone back where, like, the idea that somebody raises a knife and then you hear the splunk as it goes in, but you don't actually see it go in. Or you will see someone standing, like I said before, with a chainsaw, and they'll lower the chainsaw, and you'll hear the noises, but you won't actually see it. So it does tone down a bit. But then again, you'll have another scene where somebody's ripped in half. So it's kind of weird that they show some stuff that's really graphic and then tone down other stuff. I don't quite know what. To me, it almost feels like there was a change in direction halfway through the filming.
That must have been where the censorship started stepping in because evidently I'm sure they shot the film however they wanted, but then when they were trying to get it released, because this was released through Warner, which I was honestly surprised to see at the beginning of the movie that this had distribution from Warner, and I was like, really? And then, but like you said, it got toned down kind of throughout the movie, and I was like, oh, that's where they started cutting out scenes. What's
the film rated? Do you remember?
It's probably an R now. Let's take a look. It is. Whoops, sorry, I opened up another page. I hate when I do that. There we go. Let me scroll back up. It is an R. It is an R. So
it is an R because I was wondering whether they toned down to get an MA rating or what do you call it, an NC-17 rating or something like that. But then again, if it's rated R, well, they they didn't need to tone it down. So I don't really know.
I don't know. Well, I mean, like I said, they did cut out a rape scene. They cut out a scene of the guy beating his wife naked. I mean, he was naked and beating his wife, and I'm like, ay. So I don't know if he was full hard on or what. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I don't need to see either of those scenes, to be honest. I don't know what else they cut out.
But it's but what is interesting though about it is there are some bits of the film which are, I suppose, a bit more interesting than others, where, like, for instance, the relationship between Kincannon and his daughter, Alexa, is well. Let's just take that real icky bit out of it, right?
Yeah, but, I know what you mean.
I'm talking more about the filmmaking concept, right? So he sees her as basically the world's greatest actor. Like, greatest actress in the world. Like, he even makes the comment, and she makes the comment about, she actually says, I'm that good of an actress. I can fool anybody and all the rest of it. And he sees himself as the world's greatest director, all right? Ugh. But what's interesting is that Alexa, now that she's much, much older, I mean, now that she's meant to be, late 20s, 30s, something like that.
I couldn't figure out how old 20s. She was supposed to be after the shit they talked about.
Yeah, so some of the timeline feels a bit weird, but anyway, I get the idea that she's meant to be a child, and then there's this incest concept, but the whole idea of the age of the son and her age don't quite gel. It's but anyway,
I'm sorry.
But anyway, no. So Alexa starts to take over, like, to almost make she's almost making the sequel to the Hills Run Red, or the and the father basically catches her, torturing somebody, and it's actually who is it? It's
Lalo.
Lalo, and he comes in and he sort of says, "This is pathetic. What is this? You've got a gag in his mouth. This is torture porn. This is not horror. This is not what horror is about." And it's like, everybody thinks they can be a director, and it's like, and she's there and she's so offended because it's like she thinks that she's going to be this great movie maker. And here is the father who's just basically sort of said, "You're shit. You're no good. You're terrible."
Ooh.
And she will not forgive that comment.
Yeah, all hell breaks loose after that. That's but that's a common thing though, how they always say actors want to direct.
Want to be direct. I know. Yeah,
so we have that cliche in this that goes terribly awry. But I did like this movie, actually. Even though I have a lot of shit where I'm like, oh, this is fucked up and that's gross and that was cheap, and I was so entertained. I was really entertained by this.
Well, there is a great line in the movie S.O.B. I don't know if you remember Blake Edwards' film S.O.B. And
haven't seen it.
And a very, very funny film. Mm-hmm. I swear it had every American Hollywood A-grade star agreeing to be in this comedy. Probably because it was a Blake Edwards film. But it is an absolutely hilarious film, I must admit. But there is a scene in it where they're trying to buy people off all the time, because it's meant to be shot in Hollywood about the Hollywood movie industry. So it's actually Hollywood making fun of itself, right? And and there's this one person who sort of says, "Oh, I want to move up." They've got secrets on someone, right? So it's like, "Well, I want to move up in the hierarchy," and he sort of says, "Well, I'll make you a producer." Right? Right? And then he sort of says, "No, but I want to direct." And there's a great line. I think it's Robert Vaughn, the very famous actor Robert Vaughn. And he goes, "Direct. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to direct. Why does everyone think they know how to direct?" But it's so true. But you think about it, like, everyone sort of says, "Oh, I could make that better. I could do that better." It's like how many people have you seen? Go to an art gallery or something like that, or maybe get pulled along to an art gallery rather than go because they want to, and they look at something and they go, "I could do better than that," and it's like no, you can't. This idea that people have, like, there are so many people in the world who just think they can do it, even though they've got zero experience, zero knowledge. They just think, "Oh, I can do that." No, you can't. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting bit of the film. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I did like that. Oh, and before I forget, I wanted to mention I do like the concept of hunting down a film that has become lost to time. People only know of still photos, or maybe a couple articles are written about it. But there's like, especially nowadays, like we're able to like digitize everything we make. Even if it's a shitty movie, it's going to get digitized. It will exist forever as long as this technology exists. So I do like this concept of hunting down these, legend films. So like, for example, I liked there was a series on one of the United States pay channels. You have to forgive me, I don't remember which one. It may have been HBO. And they had this thing called The Masters of Horror. And they had an episode in 2006, and they were all directed by big names in horror. There was one directed by John Carpenter, and it was called Cigarette Burns. And it had a young Norman Reedus, whom we all love and know from The Walking Dead, or even Blade, if you want to, or Boondock Saints, et cetera, and also Udo Kier, which, that German actor's been around forever, Udo Kier. And it's also that similar storyline where he's Norman Reedus is a private detective hired by Udo Kier to hunt down this notorious film that it was only screened one time, and everybody who saw it went crazy to the point that they were killing people. It made them homicidal. And I do like this I would love to see more stories in this genre, because it's a very niche genre of these movies that you want to find, but if you do find it, it's probably going to end up getting you killed.
Yes.
But I do like this. I would love to see. So if anybody's got good suggestions, recommendations for movies that have this kind of, plot, let me know, because I would love to see more like this.
Well, that's the other thing too. I mean, the way this movie also plays with that idea that when we all watch a suspense film or a slasher film or even a horror film, the argument is always, why the hell do you walk down the basement by yourself? It's like, why are you putting yourself in that situation? And this movie, as you said earlier, Velvet, plays with that. Like, they actually say, they talked about that. Why do you go into the woods by yourself? Why do you go unarmed? Why do you do all of this? And so it is interesting that this movie, in a sense, is also actually having a little bit of fun at the genre itself while it's actually doing that genre. So that was kind of nice. But it does. I think this movie does lack a bit from production value. Like, it just. Mm-hmm. The other thing too is that I don't know what you found, but I found this movie ran very quick.
It is only an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty quick. It's not even a full 90 minutes, and even including the and post credit scene. Yeah. So it's I don't know if that's how much they cut out of it. Like, I'm curious how much stuff did get cut out, but at the same time, I don't really want to see the unedited version, because it sounds like, some of that stuff may have went a little too far for my taste.
But one thing I was thinking to myself after I finished watching it was that I actually thought this movie would have maybe worked better as a found footage film.
Which at first I thought that's kind of what it was going to be, but it kept just shifting perspective. So they were like documenting what was happening, and they were trying to make a documentary, but they would just hit those angles that are straight, movie viewer, not found footage. So definitely as a found footage film, maybe this would have been a little better. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess you're able to take more liberties. But I guess you take more liberties with the special effects when it's not found footage. I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this is. Yes, it's more like Blair Witch 2, isn't it? Where they use they're talking directly into the camera, but but it's not found footage. So you've got the overall cinema concept, but they're still in certain scenes talking into a camera. So, but yeah, it was just an interesting idea anyway. But no, but look, I quite liked it. You know, it's got a lot of faults, but you know, it's just a fun little film. It's kind of all right. I think
the story is actually kind of original for an independent horror film. I mean, it does play with the cliches and it tries to correct them, and it kind of lets you know, like, hey, we're not going to do those exact same cliches. I did like the actual overall story. I like this whole documentary team hunting down a lost film and just then basically getting murdered. I do like this premise.
So, look, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, have we got anything else to say about it, or should we rate it?
I've said all I can say about it. Yeah, I've said all I can say about it.
No, that's
I'm ready to rate it when you are.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised we talked this long about it because the movie's only an hour 20, so we did pretty good, and we were even able to get off on our usual tangents, so we did pretty good.
Yeah.
So our Eric Roberts scale, so the king of the B movies, Eric Roberts. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best and number 1 being a real stinker, I'm going to say this is watchable, maybe slightly predictable. It does lose some steam. It does let up on the gore. Starts out really intense, and then it does kind of die off. I thought the twist was a little bit predictable, but that's subjective. I usually don't guess twists, so that's not saying much. All right. Out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts, I'm going to go ahead and give this 2.5. It is watchable, but it's not groundbreaking, and I probably won't see myself watching it again.
Yes, I would agree. I think it's a film that had a lot of very clever ideas in it that didn't quite work, or they just weren't able to carry those ideas through to where they really should have gone.
There was a love triangle. We forgot to mention that. That was totally unnecessary.
And there's no point to that. It had nothing.
Right.
No, So, although I think that love triangle maybe opened up the idea that it allowed Tyler and Alexa to become closer. So maybe it was meant to be to allow them to become closer, to which, you know, obviously they will become very close. Well, as we say, because, you know, this movie, let's just say, ends with the concept of the hills run red, the next generation. So it's, you know, so maybe that's where they were trying to go with that. I don't know. I think it deserves a passing grade, but only just. So I'd say 2.5 as well. You know, I'd say 2.5 as well. It's safe for me a little bit because because I'm Australian by birth. Of course, it means I love Sophie Monk because everyone in Australia loves Sophie Monk. So basically, and as I said before, she's one of these celebrities who just can do no wrong. I mean, she could burn down a church and people would just sort of say, it's all right, Sophie, don't worry about it. Accidents happen. You know what? She's one of those sorts of people that we just, I don't know what it is. You cannot meet an Australian who will say they dislike Sophie Monk. Everyone loves her for some reason. So, and I think it's because she's so down to earth, and I think that's why people love her so much. She's great on talk shows. She's just the most brilliant guest because she's so open and she's so funny when she actually talks. So I will give it 2.5.
Right on.
All right. Well, what we will do is we've got another 2 movies to talk about, and we'll take a quick musical break, and we will be right back with movie number 2. There's no mini movie this week. I'm sorry, guys. So,
whoops.
I know.
I forgot.
Yeah. Don't worry. We'll have one next week. So don't worry about that. So I thought, what better musical break? Why don't we have some Sophie Monk? How does that sound? Because she is a singer as well, of course, as I said. And here's something that you may not have thought. Here's Sophie Monk singing techno opera. Yes, I'm not joking. Techno opera. Anyway, we'll be right back. Well, yes, we're back, and that was, of course, Sophie Munt with Ave Maria. Yes, you weren't expecting that, were you? You also probably weren't expecting that after you saw her in that film. But anyway, but you can, of course, download all of Sophie Munt's music off iTunes. There are a couple of albums there, and you can also download the girl band that she used to be in called Bardot, which was a band started from a reality TV show called Pop Stars. That's how she actually got her break. She was actually
good for her.
She was actually picked to be part of a girl band in a reality show called Pop Stars. Yeah, so I think they produced 2 albums. The first one did pretty well because of the show. I think the second one flopped terribly, and then they all went off on their own. Sophie hasn't done too bad. All right, now our second film. Now this is okay. Only could really be described as a black comedy. I think is the only way to describe it. And we are talking about the American horror comedy from 2014, Zombeavers. Yes, I'm not joking. Zombeavers. What better zombie movie can you have than Zombie Beavers? It is quite amazing. Now, directed by Jordan Rubin, and also written by in collaboration with some other people by Jordan Rubin, and the story was also by Jordan Rudman. So obviously a project that he was quite fond of. Now, an American film, and it is. It starts off. I suppose you could say, as you would just think it's another. If you didn't know what the title was, you might sort of think, oh, it's just going to be a bit of a B-grade sort of horror, creature feature type film. But as the movie goes on, we suddenly realise that no, this is definitely a black comedy or a dark comedy, whatever the correct term is these days. It's just even the whole idea, Zombeavers. So our film starts off with some. They're meant to be university students, aren't they, or college students?
Yeah,
as I say in the United States. And so it's 3 girls, and after one of them has her boyfriend has cheated on her, they decide that they're going to escape for the weekend in a cabin in the countryside. And so, of course, we know that something bad's going to happen. 3 girls going off to a cabin by themselves in the countryside, something bad is probably going to happen. But while this is all happening, we find out that a truck carrying chemical waste has accidentally dropped a barrel of this into a sort of a river system. And, of course, what it's done is, of course, it's turned all the beavers into zombie beavers or Zombeavers. Now, one thing that must be said is the discussions inside the cab between the 2 truck drivers is fucking hilarious.
One of those drivers is Bill Burr, who's a famous American comedian. So it's funny to see him pop up at the beginning of the movie. So right away this is going to be some non-politically correct humor.
Yes. They're talking about giving men hand jobs in what was it, truck stops, and it's absolutely just. It's actually, but it is funny. I must admit, it is funny.
Yes, it is funny.
So anyway, our girls go to this lakeside cabin where they're staying, where one of the girls, I gather, grew up, or meant to be something along these lines.
That's what I understood. It was like a family cabin or something.
Yeah, so a holiday house, I suppose. And
right.
And so anyway, so they're up there, and they meet this very strange guy who's, I think he's meant to be a game warden or something like that. Is that what?
I think he was just a wild man living off the grid.
Yeah, and but I've forgotten his name now. But you will remember him if you're a fan of CSI Miami. He is, of course, the main police detective in CSI Miami. I've forgotten his name now.
I'm trying to remember which one he is because I don't recognize him out of character.
he's the bald police detective in.
Is that Rex Lynn?
Is it? Yes, Rex Lynn. That's him.
There you go.
So
Give me a second.
Anyone who's a fan of CSI is going to.
I didn't even recognize him.
Instantly recognise him. And I have to admit, some of his blooper outtakes are absolutely hilarious with the young girls.
Oh, those are funny.
They're absolutely hilarious.
That was funny.
At which you will see at the end of the movie. It does have a big reel of outtakes, which are very, very funny.
I love those.
So anyway, to continue on with our story. So they're up there. They meet this guy who's called Smythe, and they also meet an elderly couple who live by the lake as well. And so anyway, they're there, and we're being tempted at the moment with the fact that we can see these rogue zombie beavers, but there's been no sort of connection as yet with our stars and the Zombeavers. But then suddenly we get a jump scare, supposedly. And, of course, what it is it's three guys who are their boyfriends / friends.
Oh, my God.
Who
Pretty
turn
girls with ugly boyfriends.
Yes, who turn up at the cabin. And so anyway, we've now got 6 of them, 3 girls and 6 guys. Sorry, and 3 guys. So there's 6 of them. Now it turns out that one of the boyfriend who cheated on the girlfriend actually cheated with one of the girlfriend's best friends, who's also at the cabin. So we get this sort of love, well, I won't say love triangle, let's say just call it a sex triangle, I suppose.
Just conflict.
Yes, which comes up. But then very soon, the Zombeavers attack. And and of course, it's typical zombie stuff. There's, of course, if they bite you or, rip you to pieces, of course, you don't die, you just become a zombie yourself. Well, you would think that that's pretty normal, right? Well, there's a bit of a kicker to this movie. You don't just turn into a zombie if you're bitten by a Zombeaver. You turn into a beaver. A giant 6 foot, 2 meter tall beaver.
A Zombeaver. So you got a lust for blood and flesh.
Yes. So not only do we have the normal beavers running around trying to kill everybody, we also have our cast slowly turning into 2 meter tall beavers themselves. And then, of course, they will have to try to see if they can escape, in the normal thing. So we have to go through all the thing about them boarding up the house to try to stop the beavers coming in, and how do they kill the beavers, and then who's been bitten by a beaver and who hasn't been bitten by a beaver. And some of the scenes where they turn into beavers are just fucking hilarious, especially when they've got the giant flappy tail that they grow.
Oh, my God.
So, and of course, then they will have to try to make their escape. And of course, the question then comes down to who will live, who will die, who is or isn't infected. And the ending of this movie, I must then say, it's fucking hilarious. It just ends in a way where it's just like, really?
Jeez.
Really? That was just the cheapest ending I could think of. But somehow it works. It actually works.
Yeah, nobody was getting away in this movie. Oops, spoiler.
Yes.
But I was laughing the whole time. This movie was so silly. It knew what it was from the beginning. It wasn't one of those movies where it's trying to be serious. It knew from the beginning, this is ridiculous, this is funny. And just such a silly movie, and it's rather well done. And right from the beginning, it's very entertaining. As I mentioned, we have Bill Burr, comedian, right from the beginning, driving in a truck with his coworker, having some very strange dialogue. And then they have some very nice Zombeaver animations in the opening credits. But then, of course, hold on, because once you see the beavers get infected by the toxic waste, then you have some very funny animatronic beavers, or I should say animatronic Zombeavers. Yeah. And I was just laughing the entire time. I was like, oh, this is so ridiculous, but in the best way possible. Then I was a little confused how how the initial, I guess it was the first Zombeaver, got in the shower. Did somebody leave a bedroom window open? Is that what happened?
No,
I wasn't sure.
They're meant to be digging their way into the house, is my understanding.
Okay. I was like, how did he get in the shower? Because all of a sudden somebody goes to take a shower and there's a Zombeaver in the shower and everybody's screaming and going crazy. The acting on the cast is actually quite good. Everybody has good comedic timing when they're supposed to be scared or upset or angry. I mean, very good emoting going on. But damn, those are some ugly boyfriends. Cute girls, ugly boys. I don't know why they paired them up like that. I was just like, yuck. I was like, girls, you're too good for all these guys.
Actually, do you know what I would have actually said from watching the cast? I would have actually said it's a very realistic looking cast.
Okay, fair enough.
I know you're going to. Well, clearly you disagree, and that's fine. We're not going to agree on everything. But the thing I liked about it is that you know how you've got two types of actors. I'm talking about pure looks now, right? You've got the George Clooney's of the world. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And then you've got the I don't know. You know, just you've got the ones who just let's just say any actor that's come out of Europe. Right, like they're and the thing that about this cast is they just to me they didn't look like stars. They just looked like ordinary people, you know. And
okay, fair enough.
They're all actors.
I
don't know. I kind of liked that about it.
Okay, I'm being a little cruel when I'm saying the boys were ugly. Let's just say they weren't my cup of tea, but I think you're describing it much better. Yes, they didn't have that cliche Hollywood look. Yeah. They did look like regular people, so fair enough.
Like, no one in this movie is a supermodel, is what I'm trying to say. You know, they're not, like they've got some actors who are chosen purely for their looks. Right,
right.
Well, 90% of Hollywood, but it's these they're not. I don't know. I like that. Anyway, sorry.
No, I'm glad you said that because it's mean for me to say, "Oh, that person's ugly," because I'm not, I'm not Miss America either. So okay.
Well, no, that's not. We all know that you competed once as Miss Montana, wasn't it?
There we go. Warren, master of compliments. So we got there's the scene. Okay, the raft scene. So of course, everybody manages to get out of the house and try to get away from the beavers. So what do? You go to a raft in the middle of a lake where beavers are hanging out. That's a great place. Yeah, let's go hide there.
Yes.
And let's bring a little dog with us. It's very reminiscent of The Raft, the story from Creepshow, where you have the fucking sludge that comes up. And so I was like, oh, I wonder if this is a nod to that or if it just reminds me of that. But I did like that part.
I personally reckon it was a nod to it. And the reason why I say that you and I watched this movie separately. Like, we didn't watch it together. We watched it separately. Mm-hmm. And I thought exactly the same thing.
Nice. Well done.
I think it definitely was in honour of Creepshow. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Very nicely done.
Yeah.
Very funny. Unfortunately, a dog does get killed in the process, but watch that gag reel.
That's when they've actually got the animatronic zombies swimming with the dog. And that is just hilarious. It's
funny. And they're like, the dog's supposed to be afraid of them. But in the actual movie, the dog gets eaten by the Zombeavers, and they do that to buy themselves some time. So poor little doggy. No, this movie, for what it is, it's also not a solid 90 minutes, but it doesn't need to be. This is one where this is definitely quality over quantity. So we have an hour and 17 minutes, including the gag reel and credits. So I think I like that they kept it short instead of trying to pad it with too much stuff just to make it longer. It's very exciting for what it is, and it's funny.
Yes, it reminds me of there's a number of films like this. I mean, this sort of black horror or black comedy horror, which is sort of out at the moment. It's a bit like if you remember, a lot of people will have seen Piranha 3. No, Piranha is it 3 double D or 2 double D or 3 double D? That's right. And where it was like Piranha 3D, of course, is. It's meant to be. It's a bit like Anaconda. It's one of those movies that they're trying to make an A-grade film in the style of a B-grade film, and I personally don't think it ever works. I don't know what you think, Velvet, but I think every time they try to do this, they've done it a number of times. I just don't think it works. But when they do it, like this one, like Zombeavers, or like Piranha 3 Double D, it works because it's a comedy first and it's a horror second sort of thing. Oh, pardon me. So I think it works, but yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean,
I agree 100%. This movie knew from the beginning that it was a comedy with horror elements, and they let the comedy take front and center instead of trying to make it a serious film with bits and pieces of comedy, which is because that's oftentimes the problem with comedy horrors, is getting that balance right. Because first off, you have to go in knowing, okay, is this a horror film or is this a comedy? Okay, because you really got to have that good balance. And this one's more the comedic range, obviously. It's not scary at all. The gore is comedic. Nothing is realistic. I mean, it really is a dark comedy more than it is a horror film. And I love that they did it this way. I think, it just knew what it was from the beginning. All the actors were on board, totally got it. Nobody is pretentious or overacting. It's very funny. And it's really well done for how ridiculous the premise is.
I mean, it's a bit like, I won't say so much like, the original Sharknado, which I think when it first came out, it hadn't quite found itself. It was right. Was it just another offering from sci-fi, or was it actually meant to be funny? But by the time they got to Sharknado 2, all the way through now to Sharknado 5, it's like they're now more comedy than they are, and it's just like, how far can they push the boundaries with it? And this is like that, or is it Shark and Saw Women's Prison Massacre? Is another one which stars Tracy Lords and Christine, what's her name? Christine Ewan. That's another classic one like this, where it's like you're not going to be shocked by the horror. You're going to be laughing more than you're actually going to be scared. And it's and I think it's I kind of like this genre. I think it works. I mean, it's like we said, that concept of taking a B-grade film and making it as an A-grade just doesn't work. But this idea of making them comedies, it really does. I think it really works. And they're just lots of fun. You can just sit back and this is just where, you sit back with a packet of corn chips and a Diet Coke, or you sit back with a red wine and some cheese, whatever is your fancy, and you just escape for an hour and a half. It's great fun.
Yes, absolutely. My favorite part of this whole movie was one of the teenagers, or I guess college students, he's probably a little older. Anyways, he gets bitten by a Zombeaver, and they're like, oh shit, and to save him, they cut off his foot. So the entire time he's running around with a freezer bag with his foot in it. It just cracked me up when it shows him like sleeping on the couch and he has his foot in a bag on his chest. And
yeah, I know.
And they're like, oh, we're going to get it reattached. And you're just kind of like, you kind of have to do that fast. You can't wait a couple days to do it. It's just funny. Oh my God.
And it also needs to be a clean cut. I mean, it's like, when people lose a foot or something like that in an industrial accident, you're quite right. It's quick, it's fast, and it's a clean cut. So they can often reattach a foot or something like that. But no, 3 days later, when it was chewed off by a zombie beaver, no. That's not going to happen.
This movie is so funny. Oh my God. The Zombeavers were sentient. They were aware of technology because they did chew through phone wires. No, actually, I think they were just rodents and they chew through fucking anything. I really don't know. I'm not sure. Were they aware of technology, or did they just they're like, here's something to chew on?
That's an interesting point. That is an interesting point. I I think it's kind of more that they're just meant to be beavers and they chew anything, don't they? I mean, that's...
So they're trying to make the phone call, and for some reason that fucking cracked me up when they're trying to use a landline phone, and it's like, the beavers have chewed through the wire. That one's just like, Jesus Christ.
But it does bring up a great point, too, when they're boarding up the house and they're nailing bits of wood over the windows and stuff like that. And one of the actors actually does make the comment, "You're using wood. You do know what beavers chew through."
Oh my goodness gracious, so funny.
Yeah.
And we did mention that Zombeaverism is contagious, so that was very funny. If you get bitten by a Zombeaver, you do become a Zombeaver, but like a big one, like human size. And they even do a great scene where there's a bunch of holes in the floor, and a Zombeaver keeps poking its head up through different holes. So it's whack-a-mole, or whack-a-zombeaver in this case. But that was really funny. I like there's our wild man. At one point he gets bitten by a Zombeaver, but as he's transitioning, he still knows how to shoot a rifle. So it's like, oh shit, you're going to get shot by a Zombeaver.
Yes. That's when he becomes a beaver, but he still knows how to use a shotgun. It's like, so we've got this 2 meter tall beaver running around trying to shoot people with a gun.
So this movie was very loose with its lore. There were no set rules, which I really liked because that made it really unpredictable and even funnier. There was even a Zombeaver bear.
Yes.
It's like, wow, nobody's safe. So it was extremely, extremely contagious.
I was just going to say, isn't there a bit in it, though? It's been a few weeks since I saw it now. I've kind of forgotten. Is when Rex Lynn, Smythe, our wild man, is in the front of a pickup truck and with 2 of the girls, and they're trying to make an escape sort of thing. And he starts talking about how this has happened before, but with cows. Or I mean, was am I right in that, or is that? And
he did say that. I'm not sure what that was referring to. I don't know if that was supposed to be referring to another movie, or if that was just something they came up with to talk about this movie.
But what's hilarious about it is when they show all the bloopers at the end, you see him trying to deliver this line about zombie cows or whatever it is. And he just cannot keep a straight face. He cannot get through the lines because the lines are just so stupid, and he just keeps breaking into hysterics. And the girls are just breaking into hysterics. They just cannot get through the line about the zombie cows or whatever it is. It's just, it's very funny.
The bloopers are great, and there's even a post-credit sequence that you have to see because it's just so funny. Did you see the post-credit sequence, Warren?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say zombies, and I'll let you guys watch it and work it out.
Yes.
But I thought that was very clever. I was like, oh, shit. And also, as another reason, stick around for the credits. So not only do you get a gag reel, they also have the Zombeavers theme song, which is you definitely want to hear that. And I recommend watching that with captions so you can read the lyrics as they're singing it for you.
Yes.
But yeah, just a really fun movie. I don't really have much else to say about it other than it's currently available on the United States Netflix. I think it's also on Australian Netflix.
Not on Australian Netflix, no.
Okay. It is on American Netflix right now, so check that out.
But it is on iTunes, though, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay. I'm one of these idiots. I've actually got it on DVD. No, I've actually got it on Blu-ray, sorry, I should say. Why do I have it on Blu-ray? It was because I was in a store and it was in a discount bin. And when I just saw it, and I think this would have been first released, actually, and it was just sitting in a discount bin for I don't know, $9 or something or other. And
there you go.
And I thought, Zombeavers, $9. Yeah, I've got to check that out.
Yeah, I kind of have to have that. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, if you love funny B-movie horrors or dark comedies in this case, this is definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, most definitely. So is there is there much more we can really add to Zombeavers?
No,
Or I mean,
there's not much else I can say other than definitely check it out. It's worth a watch. It'll definitely make you chuckle.
yes, most definitely. So, all right. So, how are we going to rate? But I should just say one of my favourite scenes in it has to be though the old couple. When they're sitting who are meant to have the house on like the other side of the lake or whatever, and they get caught up in all of this as well, and anyway, and we see the classic scene of Grandpa sitting back in his armchair, listening to the radio or whatever, and it's very 1930s-ish actually kind of thing, and it sort of reminds you of Ma and Pa Kettle, just without all the kids, and anyway, and he's there and he's patting his golden retriever, right? And he's patting who's sitting, by his side, and the film cuts back and he's talking to his wife. And then it cuts back to him, and he's still patting the dog, only it's not a dog anymore. It's now a Zombeaver.
That was
and
funny.
He's sitting there patting the Zombeaver, not really, yeah.
We know what's going to happen next.
Yes, very, very, very funny, very funny. So, although we should point out, though, it's not funny as in that endless gag reel that,
No.
That you get in, like, I think you know what I mean. Like the scary movie type comedy.
No.
It's not that sort of comedy. This is dark humour rather than full out. But I often find dark humour actually funnier than full-on gag reels. Do you know?
Yeah, and talking about it's just hilarious because I can barely talk about this movie with a straight face because the premise is so ridiculous. Because I have a family member that always asks every week, so that podcast where you do movies, what movies are you doing this week? And I'm like, we're doing Zombeavers. They're like, Zom what?
Yes.
Like,
really?
Zombeavers. And they're like, what's that? And I'm like, there's a toxic waste spill and nearby beavers get turned into zombies, Zombeavers. And she just goes, oh, Lord.
I was like, oh, Lord. What will they think of next?
Next. So, I mean, I was entertained by this. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, Eric Roberts, I'm going to give this 3. Definitely watchable. Definitely something I could see myself watching again. Definitely a Diet Coke and pizza movie with your friends.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go a little bit higher. I actually thought it is so funny. I think the thing is that, sometimes the comedy in these movies doesn't work. And it's a bit like you said, Velvet, they just got the timing and the mix perfect in this. They really did.
Yes.
So I'm going to actually, I don't give it a 4. I reckon it's actually it's not War and Peace. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not some great masterpiece. But for what it is, a B-grade, dark comedy or black comedy, I think it's hilarious. So I can give it 4. I think in the genre that it's meant to fit into, it's pretty bloody good.
Love it. It was very fun.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll just take another quick break, and then we'll be back with our final film.
Whee!
Zombeavers, you hear your sweetheart scream. She tells you why you don't believe her. She saw one in the bathroom, it's no lie. It's a Zombeaver, contaminated by toxic goo, a random genetic mistake. They're semi-aquatic, they're hungry for you. Boys and girls, stay away from the lake. Zombeavers, Zombeavers, Zombeavers. A cheerful gang of college students think they're on vacation. Instead, they're dodging beaver chompers and facing their damnation. Don't board up the doorways and windows, my friend. It won't do any good. These furry brown bastards are fully equipped and they'll chew right through the wood. Say goodbye to your golden retriever. Zombeavers, Zombeavers. So brace yourself, you've never witnessed rodents quite like these. Oh, Jesus Christ, you can't escape. They block the road with trees. Check your bodies for scratches. You can't be too careful. Their claws are a cause for concern. Yes, once you're infected, it's only a matter of time before you turn into Zombeavers. Spoiler alert. Zombeavers. Look out, they're coming through the walls. Your girlfriend's chewing off your balls. Zombeavers. 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 Zombeavers, baby.
And we are back, and that was, of course, the Zombeavers theme song. Yes, so you've got to hear it here. It's fun, isn't it? That's so good.
That's fantastic.
But I love the way it's done as a crooner. You know, it's like
Zombeavers.
who is it that sings it? Is it Nick?
I already closed out the window. I forgot the name of the people who wrote it.
Yeah, but it's but I just love it. It's just it's just great. Oh, it's brilliant.
It's so funny.
And if that's the theme music of the movie, you know what we explained what you're going to get into, but I think that song kind of sums it up.
And you can actually download that song on iTunes, which I think is really funny.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So.
Well, you'd actually download the whole album, but it's really that song.
Oh, there you go. That's really the song you want.
That's the song that you want, I think, yes.
That's the song that you want.
Yes, Zombeavers. Add it to your playlists today. I have. So anyway, our final film, Velvet, and I'll tell you what, we've really moved around here a little bit because we started off with a B grade sort of horror. We then moved into a black comedy, and now we've actually got a full-on serious movie. So,
it's so good, so good.
So this is very, very different to the others. And the movie we're talking about is a British-French co-production from 2005 called Danny the Dog, or better known as Unleashed. It depends a little bit on what country you're in, I think. But I think most people will know it as Unleashed. Anyway, if you're going to try to find it, I think that's the title you should search for. So as we said, 2005. And quite an international cast in this, we should have to say.
Yes.
It's set in Britain and filmed in Britain, but one of our main characters is British, but then two of the others are American, and our main star is Chinese. So that's quite an interesting sort of casting viewpoint, I suppose, for a movie which is set in London. But anyway, what is the story? Well, just before I do, to give you an idea of the three main stars in this, Jet Li, Morgan Freeman, and Bob Hoskins. So you've got a pretty big cast, right there. I mean, that's you're sort of saying, well, you got the three of them together, it's going to be pretty good. And it definitely. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So, our story basically is about a gentleman played by Bob Hoskins called Bart, and he's a criminal. He's a standover man. He's basically got his hands in everything, buying and selling stolen goods. But I think he's also a standover man as well. So he's got his hands in all sorts of pies. He's a real baddie.
So now, I think he's mostly, I'm not 100% sure, I just want to clarify with you. So is he basically hustling everybody for protection money, like going to every business basically saying, hey, you owe me money or we're going to beat you up and steal all your shit? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, cultural difference here. Basically, in the United States and probably Canada, yes, you call it protection. Where in, let's say, Australia, Britain, places like that, you call it standover. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. So protection money or standover money, it's the same thing. It just actually depends on what country you come from. So yeah. So
there we go.
So yeah. So that seems to be.
So
a lot
I'll be
of what
saying
his business
protection
is.
money, and Warren will be saying standover.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Well, hey, it's a British movie, so we could say standover.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So we meet in the middle. It's all good.
So anyway, he has, well, I'd almost say, a pet, and that pet is Danny, played by Jet Li, who is literally kept on a leash. He quite literally wears a collar, and he is trained as his almost like guard dog. I mean, there is, and hence why
attack dog,
and why he is called Danny the dog. He's literally he lives in a dungeon and fed scraps, and he's just brought out by Bob Hoskins, whenever he needs. We're talking serious muscle, and so the idea of this is, of course, who is Danny? Where did he come from? Why does Danny have a Chinese guy as his dog, if you like? Where did he come from? Well, that will be explained as the movie goes on. Now, anyway, so through, we follow Bob Hoskins, Bart, and Danny in various different protection rackets. And during one of them, we are introduced to Morgan Freeman, who plays Sam. And Sam is a piano tuner, but he's blind, which is an interesting bit. Did you get why that was necessary? Or I suppose that was because he couldn't see Danny. So his emotion was totally from the heart, not from the head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was also Morgan Freeman's idea, because originally Sam was a seeing character, and and Morgan Freeman said, how about if my character is blind? So he actually changed that up for the movie, and for the exact reason that you said, so that it would be more believable that he would be able to see the good in this person without being distracted by the actual physical appearance of what the fuck was going on.
Yes. Now, Sam also has a daughter who is stepdaughter, I should say, because she's meant to be, what is it? Meant to be sort of like he knew her mother or something, and the mother died.
Oh my god, that was such a weird family dynamic. I'm sorry, people, but it is a weird family dynamic. So her father died before she was born, but Sam was her father's best friend, and he became close with her mother and married his best friend's now widow.
Yes.
And then she dies in a car accident. So now we have Sam, who gets blinded in the car accident, raising the stepdaughter that he loves as his own. So complicated family dynamic, but I like that they did that for this movie. But I'll get into that. I'll let you tell the story, then we'll come back around. To it.
So Danny meets Sam, but nothing else really comes from it until later on, where there is a murder attempt on Bart. They try to kill him, and Danny, who's caught up in it because it's done in cars. He actually believes that Bart is dead, and he runs away, and he meets back up with Sam and his daughter. And they take him in, and they start to try to slowly bring him back to normality, I suppose is the best way, to describe it, because Danny is just like,
traumatized,
abused, lost all sense of real humanity, I suppose. And so they try to slowly bring him back. And they do, they view him as a stepson and a stepbrother in a way, don't they? They really do.
Although I was kind of wondering if there was something romantic growing between Danny and the stepdaughter.
Maybe, but I don't think the film ever tries to. It doesn't go down that track anyway. Whether that was maybe the intention, maybe, I don't know. What do you think? Do you reckon that was?
I wasn't 100% sure, because there's that scene where she takes his collar off and she leans in to kiss him, and instead she kisses his neck. She's like, "Whoa, one thing at a time. Like, let's not overwhelm him with making out and sex. Like,
Yes.
let's wait. Because she was 18, so, I mean, she's not,
Oh, no. And she's actually she's a pianist.
Yes.
Professional pianist.
Yes.
And as I think we said before, Sam is a piano tuner.
Right.
Now, they take him in and they start to bring him back to normality by even just simple things like he falls in love with ice cream. Sam teaches Bart how to cook. And Danny falls in love with cooking, like cooking meals and things like this, and starts to learn how to interact with people. He starts tuning pianos with Sam, and then he starts being paid for the first time in his life. He's getting money. He doesn't know what to do with it. And what does he do? The first thing he does, he buys a hat for himself and gifts and food for the family, which I thought was really, really interesting. Like, he's not a selfish man, he is.
No.
He's still thinking of others before himself, and but unfortunately, Bart is not dead. Bit of a spoiler, and he will, and they do retract down Danny and take Danny back onto the collar, if you like, and force him to do some rather nasty things that Danny doesn't want to do anymore. Danny doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to fight, sort of anymore. And we'll get into more depth with this in a moment. And but then anyway, Danny will escape again and go back to the family. But while he's with Bart for the second time, he finally learns who his mother was, where he came from, and why he ended up with Bart as Bart's dog. Now, I'm not going to say what that was because it'll spoil it. But anyway, he finds out his origins, and it's pretty horrific actually when we find out the connection between Bart and Danny.
It's so fucked up.
Yeah, and so he will go back then, of course, to Sam and Victoria, but he will be chased by the henchmen of Bart, and of course we all know what's going to happen. We're going to have some major kung fu battle, which of course we do. And then the film will sort of finish on, I suppose, a high note. No pun intended.
Definitely, I was thinking that.
Yeah. So look, it's a very interesting film. I mean, it's often I suppose marketed very much as an action film or a martial arts film, of course, starring Jet Li. But it's so much more than that. The martial arts in this is kind of just part of the movie. It is not a martial arts film. It's just
I agree.
They have Jet Li and they're going to use Jet Li, but that's not what the film's about. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I highly agree. This movie is extremely underrated. I think not enough people have seen this movie. I love this movie. This movie was a box office bomb, which is so upsetting when you find that out because it's such a great movie. It had a budget of about $45 million. Worldwide gross was only $26 million. So, an opening weekend, it made $2 million. So it just did not do well, unfortunately. And it's such a great movie. Jet Li really committed to this role, which I think this is probably some of his finest acting, to be honest, because it's such a quirky character. Naive, charming, cute, funny, loyal, just so sad and pathetic. And it just, wow, it's the casting. I love the casting in this film. Bob Hoskins is sublime. He is the ultimate asshole. He's just such a horrible person.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so good. And of course, you always got to like Morgan Freeman. But Jet Li, I think, did really great in this movie, just being really cute and goofy and innocent. But then at the same time, he was this deadly killing machine. Like, he could literally kill on command. Like, there's a scene where he literally kills somebody in 3 hits. You're like, damn.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, he is that conditioned to kill. The soundtrack on this movie is really good too. The music is by Massive Attack, who was pretty popular at the time.
Oh yeah, love Massive Attack. Fantastic outfit. If no one's ever listened to Massive Attack, brilliant, fantastic.
Yeah, they really did a great job of it. Like, just the music really fits in perfectly with this film. And I'm not talking about, there's a lot of piano numbers, but I mean like the actual soundtrack, like the action and drama and all the stuff that's happening in this film. And even the end credits, they got the RZA to do a rap on the end credits, which is pretty cool. But this movie is action-packed right from the beginning. I mean, it's so much action, really excellently choreographed fight scenes, really exciting, never a boring moment. But I have to admit, this movie, as you said, a lot of people might try to say it's a fight film, martial arts film, but this movie does something that martial arts films don't usually do to me. This movie moves me to tears. This makes me choke a couple times whenever I'm watching this movie, from the ending and some of the other really touching scenes, because it has just that whole charitable aspect of Morgan Freeman and his stepdaughter taking in a complete stranger, giving him shelter, giving him food, giving him a home, giving him friendship and love. And you just don't see this scenario often in martial arts films. It's usually very glossed over, and then it becomes a revenge film, because then usually that family gets killed, and then our protagonist has to go, fight everybody and kill everybody to avenge their deaths. And we don't have that kind of movie in this, not really.
Yes.
So I'm just like, I love this movie. I have really probably not very much bad to say about it, other than it's highly unrealistic, but that's okay, because it's a fucking movie. It does not have to be realistic. So suspend your disbelief and enjoy the ride. For some reason, I kept thinking this movie was 2.5 hours. I don't know why. I kept thinking it was a really long movie, but it's only 1 hour and 43, so it's a pretty standard running time. But there's just so much action, and it's just like there's so much stuff happening. It feels like a long movie, but not in a bad way. It's just there's so much stuff packed in that time.
Oh, no, they definitely packed a lot into the movie. Actually, just on a side note, I was just going to say, the music by Massive... Do you know this is not the only movie that Massive Attack have been involved with? And do you know one of them was a porn film? Wow.
That actually does not surprise me.
They actually did the music, believe it or not, for a porn film. Back in like 2001 or 2000, something like that. They actually, so 2002, something like that. Yeah,
I'm sure that made it much more watchable.
It's I think it made it much more sellable, probably, but that was just on a side note. And don't ask me how I know that. I just know that.
You have it on Blu-ray.
No, I don't actually. No, I seriously don't.
I'm joking. Joking.
I'll be honest with you. I have seen it, though. I have seen it. Truthfully, the music in it is the best bit of the film, to be honest.
I bet it is. I can imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
It actually tastes a pretty average. It was actually a movie made by a company, I think, based out of Sweden called Private.
Okay.
And it was that time, where there were companies like Vivid and all that sort of stuff. And they decided that they were going to start to try to make films that actually had a story. Like they were going to try to make sets films that actually were films in their own right.
Those are my favorite kind of adult films. I love it when they have a story.
And anyway, so this was one of them. It was set in outer space. It was meant to be about a space mission that all goes wrong because they get infected by an alien and they all go. They all want to have sex with each other because they're infected.
Of course they do. Okay, because that's what happens.
But yeah, I know.
Get infected in space.
And it also had CGI effects in it and all sorts of stuff.
Wow, they went all out. Holy shit, they got Massive Attack to do the soundtrack. Yeah. Wow, they were not fucking around. Oh, actually, they were. Okay.
Well, yes.
Actually, they were.
Yes.
But
oh no, I'm not. I thought there were some other things in that movie because they actually tried to use 0G for the first time. So you can imagine the concept of zero G in an adult movie. It's like
what's zero G?
Well, it's where you float. There's like no gravity.
Zero gravity. Okay.
Yeah. So it was like it was yeah.
Oh, how fun!
It's kind of, even if you're not into porn or anything like that. It's actually just
that was a high production for a porn film. Yeah,
it's an interesting film in the sense that it was kind of groundbreaking in the fact that they tried to do all this stuff which had never been done in that industry before.
Wow!
So
they had a higher budget than Retro Puppet Master. It sounds like.
I think they probably did.
Wow!
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes, so,
that's wow.
Wow. So yeah. Anyway, but getting really sidetracked now. But no, I agree. I think Jet Li nails this role so well. I mean, the fact that he's just got this puppy dog face, he looks like this little child, and he does in a way. I actually think, you know how they sort of, this idea of acting school. It's like be a tree. Be a tree. Now you're a cat. Be a cat. Right. And but he actually does play this like he is a dog. Do you know what I mean? Like his mannerisms.
Oh my God.
Like if you anyone who has a pet dog, just watch your pet for 5 minutes and then watch Jet Li in this. His mannerisms towards other people are kind of mimicked off the way a dog interacts with a person. It's really well done
in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's really well done, but it's a little disturbing in the beginning because you realize how deprived he's been of normal human-to-human social interaction and how abused and neglected he is. And he's basically regressed, and it's not until he gets among, a loving environment that it's like, oh, he can speak and, oh, he does understand. And, he's not too far gone. He can come back to humanity. But yeah, it's really upsetting in the beginning. There's so much attention to detail in this movie. So fucking well done. The entire time you see he has a scar around his neck from wearing this metal dog collar all the time. He has scars on his forehead from fucking fighting and beating up and killing people all the time. Just great attention to detail. Also great sound effects to go along with that great soundtrack. Really enhances the film, keeps you in the film, just pumps up the adrenaline while you're watching it. And also interesting cinematography. Lots of jump cuts, POV cameras. I love it. I don't think I have anything bad to say about this movie.
No, the only, and I love that all the colours of the cinematography in this. It makes London look so dark and miserable.
Yes.
I'm an Australian, I'd probably say, well, London kind of is dark and miserable.
It is kind of dark and miserable. Right? We don't mean that in an offensive way. It's a rainy climate. It's overcast, Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've said this before. I still remember a guy I went to school with who, when he went to London for the very first time in his life, and he said the thing he couldn't understand, he said there's no sky. In Britain, because it's a bit like you and I were born in places where the sky goes on forever. Do you know what I mean? It's just, but in Northern Europe, it's not. It just feels lower. It feels more claustrophobic. It feels darker.
It does.
And this has nothing to do with the people. We're just talking about the weather. And so it's, but it just. It's got, but I think what it does is, if you had to film this movie, let's say in San Francisco, just for argument's sake, it wouldn't have worked as well. That being in London with that sort of not very nice weather, it just worked. Right. It made it feel darker and more caged, like he is. Like he's caged. And it felt like that, it just worked so well, I thought.
Yes, I 100% agree. Yeah, London was the great location for this film, for where it was supposed to take place. And it went hand in hand with a totally over-the-top violence. And very fast, very frenetic, very unpredictable, a lot of really fun stuff. Hand-to-hand combat, guns, weapons, just all kinds of crazy shit. People getting thrown off roofs, out of windows, landing on cars. It's just people getting killed in 3 punches. I mean, just it's every and there is a ton of fucking action sequences in this movie. I mean, it literally does feel like a 2.5-hour movie to me, but not in a bad way. There's so much happening that I'm like, wow, I'm surprised this movie is less than 2 hours. Just so much stuff happening. And Jet Li just looks so haggard the entire movie, and towards the very end, he starts cleaning up, starts looking human. But yeah, I mean, he really committed to this role. I think it's probably his finest, like, acting performance.
I agree. I think it's one of his best. I mean, it reminded me a little bit. It's like, actually, recently I saw, what's it called? The Foreigner with Jackie Chan.
I still need to see that.
And Pierce Brosnan. And I have to admit, I recommend it to anyone simply because it stars Jackie Chan and Pierce fucking Brosnan. I mean, it's Jackie Chan, the king of action movies, and Pierce Brosnan, who is fucking James Bond. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So it's just, so I had to see it just because it's got two of my favourites of all time in it. And because I think everyone knows Pierce Brosnan is my favourite Bond.
My favourite Bond too.
Oh, there you go. And but the thing about that movie is that it reminded me way too much of a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger called Collateral Damage. I don't know if you remember that, where his family is killed and he goes on a revenge hunt to hunt down the terrorists that did it. And unfortunately, this movie is exactly the same, except instead of being drug lords, in this case, they're Irish nationalists.
Oh wow! Okay.
But the thing I did like about it was that I'm getting off point, so I'll get back very, very quickly. The thing I did like about it was that I do like it when, it's like every fucking terrorist in a movie these days is a fucking Muslim. You know what I mean? And it was kind of nice to remind people that, there are a lot of terrorists in this world that aren't fucking Muslims.
Right?
And the fact that they brought the IRA back for this, I thought was kind of. I thought it was good. You know what I mean? I thought it was good. But anyway, where I was trying to go with this is that was exactly what you were saying before. It's pure revenge. Do you know what I mean? It's pure revenge film. Where the thing about this is that even though it's similar, Jet Li has no concept of revenge. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He doesn't even want to hurt Bart. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Not at the start. He just wants to be free. Right?
Right.
Now, towards the end, it does get to the point when he realises what happened to his mother, then there is a kind of concept of revenge that comes into it. But generally speaking, it's not a revenge flick. It's a survival flick. It's coming of age flick in a weird way. He grows up. It's got all of these different things in it that you wouldn't normally expect in an action adventure.
Yes, I agree 100%. Yeah, this movie has a lot of heart. It's not just about, look at all these fight scenes. There really is a great story in this. Totally over the top. I mean, really not believable story because, just the whole concept of taking a stranger in off the street. Because that was like, okay, that might be one small thing where I was kind of like, wait, how does that work? Okay, long story short, we got Morgan Freeman is blind. Jet Li shows up where Morgan Freeman is, and he's injured, and he's been shot, and he passes out. And all of a sudden, Jet Li is in Morgan Freeman's home, and I'm like, wait. Why would you not call the hospital? Why would you not call the police?
I know.
And then I'm like, wait, you're blind. How did you transport by yourself this injured, bleeding, passed out man to your home? So, okay, maybe that's my only criticism about the film. Because I'm like, wait, you know what? I love this movie so much I don't care.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm like, wait, how did you do that?
There are some little plot issues like that. I will, yes, I would definitely agree. But I don't think it hurts the film.
No, because I've seen this movie so many times, and that is the first time that has ever even occurred to me. I'm like, wait, how did he get there? And then I'm like, wait, why did you take a bleeding, injured, somebody who's been shot to your house instead of calling the police or the ambulance? Wait, why would you do that? I understand being charitable and helping people, but if I see somebody shot on the street, I'm going to call the police and the ambulance because I don't know how to deal with a bullet wound. I don't want this person to bleed to death because I'm like, oh, well, let me take them home to my house first. I'm like, no, let me get them help. Let me get them help.
But doesn't it also bring up the point? You think about how many people, like in movies, especially Hollywood movies, or Chinese movies for that fact as well, actually, shot and they seem to be able to do home surgery without any problems whatsoever, right? And it's like, but you actually you think about the fact that you're dealing with arteries and all sorts of fucking things that it's like, you can't just do this stuff.
Yeah, you can't just stick your finger in the wound and dish out the bullet and sew yourself shut. No.
and the other thing too is that modern bullets, they actually. It's like the whole idea, digging out a bullet, this whole idea that sits around in movies. Well, that's kind of maybe was true 100 years ago in the days of black powder and muskets and things like that. Today, a modern bullet is designed to shatter when it hits. Right, so it fragments and it actually turns. Right. So when a bullet hits a body, it turns into 7 or 8 different things that start spinning around and doing... Because they're designed to do as much damage as humanly possible. So you just can't... Oh, anyway. It's as you said, it's just a movie, It's just
that's why I say you have to suspend all disbelief. But no, you're totally 100% correct. Okay, so... But back to the movie. I really like the characters they have in this movie because they really came up with just these... crazy villainous villains, like the most villainous villains ever. Totally psychotic sociopaths.
Yes.
Because you have that one character who's so fucking creepy. I need to look him up and see what else he's done because we don't really find out much about this guy other than he likes to put together some entertainment once a month where people fight to the death. And you're like, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah, I know.
And then I'm like, wow, look at all these crazy people that are coming to watch these people fight to the death. Evidently, this is an underground thing. But then on top of that, I'm like, wait, what about the people who are actually fighting to the death? Like, they are really willing to go in there and they don't have to be there, but they're like, yeah, I'm going to go in there and kill people or be killed for some money. I hope they're getting money because Danny wasn't getting any money. He was getting his life. That was it. But I was like, wow, these are some crazy fucking characters. And that's how Danny gets in. He's the one I keep talking about where in order for him to qualify to fight in this fucking fight to the death, he killed somebody with 3 punches, and that was the champion. So you knew he would do all right in this scene.
Well, this is another thing about this movie, and I suppose where it talks about how movies often defy any logic of reality, in the sense that you'll often have these, especially these big fight scenes or gun battles in the streets and, all this sort of stuff. Now, in real life, that would be on CNN. Do you know?
Yes.
Right?
Oh, God,
okay,
right? Yeah.
But in movies, somehow or other, it just happens and everyone sort of says, oh, yeah, whatever, yeah. Like it's no big deal, and that is something which I thought was well, actually, go back to The Foreigner. That's a really interesting point because in that movie where Jackie Chan finally tracks down the terrorists and he goes to kill them, right? But while he's doing it, he interrupts the British SAS about to hit the same house at the same time. So the whole idea is meant to be that. No, you can't. This stuff just doesn't happen. The security forces are going to be there. They're going to know. The police are going to know. Or if you tear an entire city block up with car chases and rocket launchers, there's going to be a CNN camera crew there. So I kind of liked in The Foreigner the way that they did that, in the fact that he couldn't just do it by himself. The police were always one step ahead of him, which I thought was clever. But in this one, it goes down that same track of let's just fucking fight in an apartment block, tear the place apart, and Nobody calls the police. Nobody does anything, you know?
Yeah, we never see the police or any semblance of law enforcement in this entire film, even though there's all this illegal fucking activity going on. People being held against their will, people being hurt, people being murdered, and people being robbed. And I'm like, wow, damn.
So where's the Met? Where's the Metropolitan Police? You know, I mean...
So now we know why Morgan Freeman is so overprotective of his stepdaughter, because he walks her to school in the morning, he walks her to home from school, and she's fucking 18 years old. But I'm like, okay, love this movie, not a criticism, but I'm just wondering, Morgan Freeman is so overprotective of his stepdaughter, but he's not worried about bringing a strange man, Danny, who kills people, into his house.
For a living, he brings a trained assassin into the house, and that's fine, but he has to walk her to university. I mean, really? You know, yeah.
But I did like the drive-by shooting English style, is how I like to say it. Because we got Bob Hoskins in the car with Jet Li, and he's got, his driver and, henchman. And they fucking, hit his car. Like, they're driving. They hit his car from the side with a bus and then, make him crash. And then a bunch of guys walk up to him and gun it down. I'm like, damn. I was like, now that's what I call a drive-by shooting, but that was like, damn, English style.
Well, to me, that was very mafioso, sort of style.
Oh God, yeah.
Right, rather than that sort of what do you want to call it, American gangland thing where they actually do just drive past and
shoot.
Yeah, and generally hit absolutely nothing, Well, actually, that's not true. I know nothing about the gangland in America, but I mean. But, I would imagine that if you were going to actually try to kill somebody with a machine gun, you would actually be better off to, approach the car and shoot into the car, not just drive by from 100 metres away, sort of thing.
Right.
But, no, but it's pretty violent too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this whole movie is pretty violent, which is so shocking that it moves me to tears every time I watch it. It gets me. It's just so good. I'm just like, I'm always so engrossed. I'm like, oh, I love this movie every time I've seen it. I can't say enough about Bob Hoskins. I feel like I haven't said enough about him. I've loved him since Who Framed Roger Rabbit. There's this, he's just a fun guy, and it's just amazing the range he has. He can go from being this alcoholic private detective to just this horrible, protection money hustling asshole who, decides to kidnap a child and raise him as a guard dog and keeps him in a cage. And if he takes off the collar, he attacks. If he keeps the collar on, he doesn't attack. And it's just such a crazy, asshole, sociopathic, psychotic, murdering character. And he plays it so fucking well. They had a couple of names attached to play Bob Hoskins' role in this.
Oh,
and I honestly could not see anybody else doing this role because I just think it was made for Bob Hoskins. But anyway, some of the other people that were offered his role they say his role was originally written for Albert Finney.
Okay.
And he actually dropped out to do Big Fish with Ewan McGregor. I honestly just can't see Albert Finney in this role at all. The other ones I also can't see. Anthony Hopkins. I like Anthony Hopkins. I like him.
Anthony Hopkins is a gentleman. Bob Hoskins is not.
Exactly.
Well, when I say the word gentleman, okay, I don't mean that Bob Hoskins isn't a gentleman. He is in real life. He's apparently a charming guy. What I mean is that idea of upper class versus lower class. And the problem
I agree.
Yes. Bob Hoskins meant to have been... He's born in the East End to poverty and has brought himself up to be this rich, wealthy criminal. He can't walk around sounding like he was educated at Eton. It just wouldn't work. And no.
Too smooth.
Yeah.
Too smooth. And I feel the same about Michael Caine was also another one.
No.
I love Michael Caine. I can see him in comedy. I can see him in drama. I can't see him in this movie.
I disagree with you on this one. I think Michael Michael Caine
Okay.
could have nailed it. I have no doubt Michael Caine could have nailed it. And the other thing, too, is that Michael Caine at the moment doesn't mind taking on these roles. Well, when I say at the moment, this movie's, 14 years old, but it's Michael Caine... I love the line by Michael Caine where he actually said he's made more movies since he retired than he did before he retired. And it's kind of true. He's pumping out so much work. But it's because he's an East End boy. He grew up in poverty in the East End. You know, he knows that life. I think he could have done it pretty well. But I still agree that Bob Hoskins was a better choice.
Yeah, I think, just his accent, and just the way he looks, his style, I think he was just so perfectly cast in this. I don't know. I would definitely give Michael Caine a chance if he wanted to do this role, but I just can't see him in this role the way that, Bob Hoskins brought, especially since Bob Hoskins does a lot of screaming and yelling, and I just can't see anybody else.
I'll put it this way: what was the movie he made where he was meant to be the pensioner whose best friend was murdered by like a gang of a teenage gang, and he decides to take revenge on them? I've forgotten what the movie is called now.
I'm trying to think of it. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
You know the movie I'm talking about, though. And
I can't think of the name either.
Yeah, and he, if you see him in that, But the other thing too is that we forget about a movie that he made in the late 60s, Get Carter. Now, in Get Carter, he plays this exact character. He's a standover man, assassin, working for the mafia in the south of England. So he's played the role before. And Get Carter is an incredibly famous film, even though it was remade about, 18 years ago in a terrible remake, one of the worst remakes. Starring who did it?
Let me find out for you.
You know the guy who was in, was it was 7.5 Weeks or whatever the hell it was called?
Mickey Rourke.
Starred Mickey Rourke. It's just fucking terrible. I mean,
Are you sure it wasn't with Sylvester Stallone?
Oh, sorry, it was Sylvester Stallone. Sorry, what am I talking about? It was Sylvester Stallone. Oh, well, there you go. Another one of another Hollywood actor who plastic surgery did not quite work the way they wanted it to. Actually, when I say that, I like Sylvester Stallone. I think he's actually good. I'm actually.
We've got so many movies that we need to review, and oh my goodness, we haven't done any Sylvester or Arnold's yet. So those will be coming. Maybe that'll be coming up as a theme show.
I actually think we have to do an Arnie theme show, and I think we have to do a Stallone theme. I reckon that'd be pretty.
I think so too.
In fact, we've even got a movie where they star together. Well, there's a couple.
Yes,
but there's the one where is it called Escape or something, where they're actually meant to be on a prison ship together.
Oh, I saw that movie in the theater and forgot about it.
Yeah, where they actually star side by side.
I hate when I actually forget that I've seen a movie because, obviously that tells you it wasn't the best thing ever made.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, it's a pretty crap film, but I mean...
That's why I forgot I saw it.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I love the casting for this movie, Unleashed. I think Bob Hoskins was a perfect choice. I love that Jet Li really gave it his all in this movie. This must have been such a physically, emotionally, mentally demanding role to take on. I love that he did it.
Well, yeah, what Jet Li movie isn't, though, to a degree.
Right, the one.
I think the difference, one of the differences here, though, is that Jet Li, his acting in this is actually more important and surpasses the fighting or the martial arts, where Jet Li, like so many of these actors, it's more about the martial arts than the acting. In this movie, it's the acting that sells Jet Li, not the martial arts.
And Jet Li's not the best at speaking English. It's just not his strong point. But in this case, in this movie, Unleashed, that really works for him. It really adds to his character.
Well, it really
does.
Actually, this was a slight problem that I had, actually, which I was going to bring up. And so it's perfect timing that you just brought it up now. And that is that, okay, and I can't give too much away, but we understand why Jet Li's Chinese, even though there's a connection to Bob Hoskins. We'll just say biologically, right? But,
okay.
Right, but he's been born and raised in Britain, okay? He's now, how old is Jet Li or Danny character is meant to be? He's meant to be like 30.
I think he's supposed to be really young.
Or is he meant to be like 20 or something, maybe?
I think he's supposed to be, but he's physically obviously not. But it's just one of those suspend your disbelief things with movies. Like, they always cast 30-year-olds for high school students and shit.
True.
So,
but you could,
anyways,
you could understand maybe because he lives in a dungeon and all the rest of it. Okay, his English is going to be really, really bad. Okay, so maybe that works with what doesn't work is having a Chinese accent.
Right.
He was born and raised in Britain. How in the fuck does he have a Chinese accent?
So they chose not to dub his voice, obviously, for this movie to help with that.
And I just think that's a major fault with the film. What they should have done is they should have somehow done it that maybe Bob Hoskins was working in Hong Kong and came back to London maybe after the Chinese took over Hong Kong, right? And he moves back to London, and then that way Jet Li would have a Chinese accent. That would make sense, right? But the thing is that if they're all meant to be born and bred in London, he's not going to have a fucking Chinese accent. It's just not
exactly
right. And
you're totally spot on. But you know what? That's I had actually totally, and I'm usually a stickler for accents, and I actually totally forgot about that inconsistency in the storyline. But you know what? It's because I love Jet Li, and the majority of movies that I see him in, if he's speaking English, his accent is so unforgiving. There's some movies where he is speaking English and it's literally like he totally forgot how to speak English. Now, it's okay to have an accent. I'm not saying, you can't have an accent. That's fine. But I mean, in some movies, like, for example, The Expendables, he literally speaks like he totally forgot how to speak any English that he knew. He has almost no lines, and when he speaks, it's so heavily accented. I was shocked. I was like, damn, dude, you don't use it, you lose it. And that's very true with language. So he just may not speak English outside of making fucking movies in the United States.
I don't know. I mean, in The Expendables, I sort of think that it's like, well, he's meant to be what? It's Chinese army or something or other who's working now for this mercenary team or something. I can sort of forgive that because it's like, well, he's Chinese army. Why is he going to have perfect English? You know,
right.
So I sort of get that, but in this one, it's just like no.
He was supposed to be in England since he was a child. He should have a British accent. Exactly. He probably should. He probably won't even know Chinese at all. Yeah, that is. I didn't even. But
this is the whole point. But it's as I said before, they could have fixed this so easily. They just could have had changed the backstory to instead of Bart and Danny growing up in London, they could have grown up in Hong Kong. Bob Hoskins could have been a standover merchant or, protection racketeer in Hong Kong and then moved back to London when the Chinese took over. And that would have fitted the story perfectly and it would have worked, right? It's such a simple thing. All I had to do was write it into the script. It's a couple of lines.
No, you make a very valid point. But you know what? Even with all this movie's flaws, I still love it.
Well, it's a little bit like in the Bond film. What is it? The World Is Not Enough. Where the evil Carver, who's meant to be trying to control, who's clearly actually meant to be Rupert Murdoch, but is trying to take over the world's media by starting a war between Britain and China. And but the whole point is that we hear his backstory. In his backstory, he was brought up in the slums of Hong Kong, supposedly. the man sounds more British than my father does, you know? And he's meant to have been brought up in the slums of Hong Kong. I don't think so. You know, yeah, anyway.
So, you know, but considering that this is an action film, the inconsistencies that we've found are not that bad compared to some action films where you're just like, okay, this movie is nothing but action. That is why nothing makes fucking sense. That's why the script is so bad. That's why the dialogue's so shitty. So it's really amazing that they put as much as they did into this movie to make a comprehensive story, to actually have enough character development that you dislike certain characters and love others and care about them. I think it's really impressive. Is it perfect? Definitely not. Is it good? Yes.
Well, this movie definitely does not suffer from the Jackie Chan concept of don't let a stunt get in the way. Don't let the storyline get in the way of a good stunt. It doesn't suffer from that at all. This is all story driven, 100% story driven. So I loved it. But it's the other thing too is that I hadn't seen it before. I don't actually know how I'd missed it, but I hadn't actually seen it before. So watching this, it was a real pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and and three's just such fantastic actors. I don't know if Jet Li's a fantastic actor, but you know what I mean. Jet Li, Morgan Freeman, and Bob Hoskins all together. You couldn't. You've got sort of royalty. You've got British royalty, American royalty, and Chinese royalty all mixed into one film. It's pretty good.
It's fantastic. Well, I've said all I can say about this one, but I could definitely go on for hours if I dug a little further.
No, look, I think we've wrapped it up pretty well, but this is definitely one I would highly recommend. As we said before, The Hills Run Red, would I recommend it? Nah, not really, but honestly, I actually, to some degree, actually say The Hills Run Red. Watch it if you're a Sophie Monk fan. If you're not a Sophie Monk fan, you probably are going to give it a miss, Zombeavers, if you want that sort of just fun Sunday afternoon, just forget, or even 1 o'clock in the morning, so if you just want that fun escape, black comedy, it's just so perfect.
That's the kind of movie you run and tell friends and family about. Yeah. Like, oh God, I saw the craziest movie where there was some toxic sludge and some beavers got into it and turned into Zombeavers. That's
right. but the thing is, it's not going to be to everybody's taste.
No,
you know what I mean, right? You're going to be
that description will weed everybody out. Yeah. That'll weed everybody out who likes it, who doesn't.
You have to be a bit crazy like us. You know what I mean? But Unleashed is different. This is a really good film. As in, this is a film that I would really highly recommend anyone, get it. It's not hard to find.
Not at all.
Get a copy and watch it or rent it or whatever you want to do. Good. It's a really good film.
And have a box of tissues because it might bring a tear to your eye in certain scenes. And
it's great. I highly recommend this one. I really do.
I love this one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go. I'm going all the way on Eric Roberts' scale. Even though this movie is not perfect, I am so highly entertained by this movie. I can watch it again and again, and it moves me every time. So out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts, I am giving this 5.
Oh,
going all the way on this one. I love it this much.
Perfect score. I am not going to go quite that high, but it's excellent. I'm going to give it a 4.
Nice.
Because I think it's very, very good. But it just, honestly, I know this sounds crazy, but the fact that Jet Li had a Chinese accent really turned me off. I know it's such a tiny little point, but it's just, to me, it was I don't know.
Well, continuity and accuracy is important in film, and sometimes we can forgive those errors, and sometimes it can really take us out of a movie. So, I mean, I totally get it.
Well, but that's even cheaper. Not necessarily cheaper. I don't mean it like that. But even in movies, like if you put Arnie in a movie, right? the whole idea, it's always explained that he wasn't born in America. Right. There's always a little thing that he was brought up in Austria, or I remember in Commando he talked about, how when he was a child in East Germany and all this sort of stuff. So, like there's always a kicker, right? But in this one there isn't, and it just that I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll give it 4.
I think that's a very nice score for a very nice movie.
Yes, but but this is definitely a keeper. This is a good one.
Yes, I am so fucking excited about our movies next week. We're not going to say anything. You guys have to tune in next week, but I'm like already fucking excited because I haven't seen any of the ones that we've picked out, and I know they're all going to be crazy to talk about.
Let's just say we're going down the B grade rabbit hole next week. Would that be fair?
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be so
So
fun.
it's going to be it's going to be fun. It is. It's going to be fun. And fingers crossed, if everything goes to plan, we're going to have someone joining us too. So that's going to be good. I'm really looking forward to that. Yes, someone who's been on several times before. So
excellent.
So yes. So anyway, I suppose we should sum up. Have we got any announcements or housekeeping or any such thing?
We got our social media that's been on the snooze since we have, but now we're back, so our Twitter is going to start acting up again or start moving again. So, and we'll be back with our mini movie as well as our other movie reviews next week. I won't forget the mini movie this time.
Yes,
sorry, I'm out of practice, people. So, but no, it'll be good. So, you can follow us on Twitter at Cult Movie Show. You can also shoot us an email at cultmovieshow@gmail.com if you have a short film you'd like us to review or an independent film you'd like us to check out, or if you'd like to come on the show and review movies with us, feel free to reach out. We're always looking for a third voice to join in the conversation, spice things up a bit.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Any movie requests you guys have, let us know. We're always looking for movies that we haven't already seen. And sometimes it's hard to choose. So it's nice to know if people are like, hey, can you do this movie? Have you seen this movie? Check this one out. But yeah, I'll swing it over to Warren now.
Yes, is there anything else? We are on Facebook with about, it's kind of crazy, I think we've got 20 followers on Facebook. And then we've got 7,000 on Twitter. So I don't know how that... so clearly Twitter is our forum.
Right. Exactly.
How do you go between two different, sort of competing social media systems? One, we have literally, I think it's like 21 followers or something. I mean, it's nothing, right? Okay, people who put up, pages of their pet dog have more friends than that. But
it's a full-time job to run social media, though. That's why I always say pick one platform and focus on that. But it's good to have a backup, because if that one platform goes away, at least people have another place they know to find you.
Well, but that's exactly right. Yeah. And then we go to Twitter, and the Twitter is. I'm just having a look right now. It's right, so what do we say? Facebook, we have what is it? 21 followers or something, and then we go to Facebook. Sorry, okay, not quite 7,000, 6,652. I mean, how does? Well, that's pretty good. But I mean, the whole point is that how the hell you'd think that'd be close to some degree, but anyway, kind of crazy. But anyway, there is a Facebook page, Cult Movie Show, if you want to go there instead of Twitter. Because I know there are some people that just don't have Twitter accounts where everybody has a Facebook account. So, I can't think of anyone that doesn't have a Facebook account. Can you?
I don't like Facebook.
I was about to say, I don't like social media at all, to be honest, these days. I'm so over it.
Like, I used to love social media, but then it became like a job, and then I was like, but I still like it for the Cult Movie Show, because it's not like a job, but unfortunately I don't keep up with it as much as I'd like to. But at least I still like it for the cult movie show. But yeah, it can take over your life if you let it. I mean, I've had so many friends over the years that like deleted all their social media profiles just because they wanted to feel free. They don't want to feel tied to having to constantly check and respond. And then so many people do drama, which I don't get. I don't understand social media drama. I'm like, why would you waste your time arguing with fucking strangers on the internet? But some people love it.
You see all the time there are people fighting and arguing and carrying on, and then people come up with campaigns where they want to troll somebody or insult somebody, and it's like, for God's sake, have you got nothing better to do with your lives than this stuff? You know, it's like, go and watch a crazy cult movie, for God's sake. Do something. I mean, you know, clean the toilet. That's more interesting. You know, it's like,
I know.
I mean, no, social media is great. I mean, I'm kind of over it to a degree, but I like it in other ways because it is a great. I mean, I've made great friends through social media, so I'm not going to can it. But
definitely.
But when I see some people who honestly live through the thing, it's like you wonder if there's anybody in their life that's actually flesh and blood that they physically talk to one-on-one. You know what I mean? It's just like I've seen some people on social media where I to be truthful with you, I'm not angry at them. I feel sorry for them. Is the way I would sort of say it. You know, it's like, you've got to get out more, man. You really do, you know, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we're not talking about psychology of social media. We're just saying we're on social media. See, we digress even when we're given the shout-outs.
What, us? Digress never.
Oh, dearie me, dearie me. So, yeah, I think that's about it. That's about it. All right, so we'll be back with number 61 next week. So, as we said, that's going to be a good one. So, yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Sorry we have been away for 2 months or something, I think it's been. So it's been a while. So you know, thank you if you've come back to start listening again. And we're back on the roll. And I suppose, are we going to call this season 3? Is that what we're going to do? Or I don't know. We take a break and then we just say, it's a new season, you know?
Yeah, I like that.
Kind of sounds better. We can say we're on season 3 of the Cult Movie Show, you know?
Good stuff. Season 3 it is. Yeah. Wow, I've almost filled up my movie notebook. I'm going to have to buy a new one in a couple weeks. That's exciting.
It's well, you said you
time to publish.
Well, I think it was publish the memoirs of the Cult Movie Show. This week's bestseller. Oh, you never know. There could be a Pulitzer in there for you, Velvet.
You never know.
But I was going to say something. It's a bit like this is just show. So this is show 60. But you were saying actually, I think it was on show 59 or 58 or something like that. Might have even been a bit earlier. You'd made the comment. You'd actually added up how many films we'd done.
Oh,
and
my God.
It blew my mind away how many it was.
Yeah, and I didn't start keeping a book until last year.
Yes.
So, because we did our first top 3 and top bottom, and I think we'd done 50 movies, you and I together. And then just last year alone, we'd done over 80. And I was like, holy shit, how many we're going to do this year? So it's like...
Well, you think about it, 60 shows with, let's say, an average of 3 movies... Well, call it 3 movies. Sometimes it's only 2, but let's call it 3. You know, what's that? That's 180.
God dang.
So, you know, jeez.
A lot of movies.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I can't wait to do this again next week.
Excellent.
Looking forward to interacting with everybody on social media, Twitter, @Cult Movie Show.
Excellent. All right. Well, we shall leave you as we always do with... Alana Evans, and it was interesting to see her actually on the news lately because of some stuff that's been happening. She's been doing the rounds of CNN and MSNBC and stuff like that. Yeah. It was very interesting.
But she handles the drama so well. Good for her.
She does, doesn't she?
Very classy and well-spoken. Good for her.
Because
yikes.
It was fascinating because, of course, we should just point out that, of course, Alana is a great friend of the show and supplies the music. Of course, and has been on the show. Of course, he's friends with Stormy Daniels. So she's been doing the rounds of the networks. So it was quite fascinating sort of seeing someone that you is not just a contact, it's like someone that you and I both really know, like we talk to and all the rest of it. So it's like, and then seeing them on the news, it was really kind of weird, you know? It's like, oh my God, Alana's on the news, you know?
I was like, oh no.
I know, yeah, I know. Although, no, but you were 100% right. I mean, she told her story, she told the truth, and she did it in a very, I think, sort of polite and upfront way. So I'd say good on her, you know? So,
good.
No worries. All right. So we will leave you with, as always, Alana Evans and Perfect, and we will be back for podcast 61 next week. So,
Perfect.
cheers, guys.
Cheers.